Nurse Veronica Treitner is suing her daughter, 19-year-old waitress Jessica Unterberger, for her share of an insurance settlement. Veronica says Jessica cashed the check and took off with the money.
Yeah, this is case number 260 on the calendar in the matter of Treitner versus Unterberger.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat, sir.
Ms. Treitner, the defendant is your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And you are suing her because, according to what I read, your daughter was riding in a car as a passenger. Who was driving?
I was driving.
And there was an accident.
Yes.
And your daughter was injured.
Yes.
She was under 18 at the time.
Yes.
And you decided, rather than going to trial, because I assume the other person was responsible?
Yes.
You settled her claim.
That's correct.
For a little over $4,000.
Yes.
She wasn't living with you at the time, because your daughter has been in foster care for a good part of her adolescence.
That's correct.
And you sent her the check, because there was a two-party check, and you instructed her to sign the back of the check, send it back to you, and you would give her some of the money.
That's correct.
And she kept the check and cashed it.
Yes.
And spent the money.
Yes.
So you want half the money back for her medical bills.
That's correct.
Okay. How old are you?
I'm 19.
When did you go into foster care?
I went into foster care the 24th of May in 2002 is the official date.
Who did you live with before that time?
My mother.
Had you been in foster care at any time from the age of 12 to 16?
I went to foster care when I was 14 and I turned 15 in foster care.
You have siblings?
Yes.
How old are they?
My brother's 14.
Does he live with your mother?
Yes.
Has he always lived with your mother?
Yes.
He was not in foster care?
No.
So I gather from what you tell me, you and your mother had a rocky relationship, which is why she put you in foster care.
Correct.
And you have remarried?
Yes.
Now, you took her out of foster care because you were going on a vacation or a trip?
That's not exactly true. We asked them if she could go with us. It's not so much that we took her out, but it was more like a trial to see if she could come back home and live with us.
And that's when the accident occurred?
Yes.
Tell me about the accident. When was it?
It was June 14th, 2002. We were getting onto the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and there was an 18-wheeler in front of us stopped. I stopped. The person behind me stopped. The person behind him did not. When he hit that car hit us. It bounced back and hit us again. Jessica was on the driver's side back. I was driving. The car, when it hit that side twice. We at first declined care because she said she was fine. By the time we got to New Jersey, she was complaining of symptoms of a whiplash. We took her into the hospital, and she did have whiplash.
Did the insurance company pay for the damage to your car?
Yes.
Whose insurance?
The person that hit us.
Did you sue on your behalf?
No.
Who else was in the car?
My husband was in the car, and she was in the car, and my son was in the car.
Anybody else injured besides your daughter?
Not in our car. I don't know about the other people.
Not in your car?
Right.
So what medical bills did you have for your daughter?
We had medical bills from the hospital in New Jersey where she was seen, and a hospital bill from a lab. I think it's in my paperwork.
Well, I'd like to see it.
This is the breakdown of where the money was supposed to go. It was for the radiologist. Everything else.
Did you pay these bills?
Yes.
Let me see.
I don't have the receipts. They were just paid for I think on my husband's credit card like 2 years ago, and we don't have the bill.
Your Honor, I was in foster care, therefore Medicaid paid for the bills. I was unable to get a hold of Medicaid. I was unable to get a hold of the hospital, but I do have copies of my physical therapy that I went through. Payments, and it also, the highlighted section is Medicaid adjustments and Medicaid paid.
Can I see it?
We did not ask them to pay anything that Medicaid paid. Her physical therapy, anything that happened in the state of Ohio.
I just need proof that you paid these bills.
I don't have it.
Well, that's unfortunate, because if she was in foster care, your daughter is absolutely right. If she was in foster care, then the state pays for any medical treatment that she had.
That's true. However, regardless of whether her bills were paid or not, it says on there that she's supposed to get $2,000 only. The other $2,000 was supposed to be for her bills. I thought if they were already paid, I would not have to bring any more proof. I mean, it's to pay her bills.
Let me ask you this question. Which one is it? Is it that you paid the bills, or you didn't pay the bills, but you felt as if $2,000 was supposed to be towards the bills, so you should be entitled to that. Which one was it?
The bills were paid.
By whom?
I paid them, and my husband paid them. They're on his...
All you have to do is show me.
I can't.
Listen to me, Miss Trentner. Even if you didn't pay and Medicaid paid, only $2,000 of that $4,000 check was to go to your daughter, and you as her parent would be entitled to the other half.
No. The other money was to pay the bills. She was only entitled to...
Listen, I do not believe, madam, that... Stop playing with the paper. I do not believe that you paid the bills. I'm going to tell you why I don't believe that you paid the bills. First of all, you don't have any evidence that you paid the bills, and you don't look like an unintelligent woman. And if you're coming to court and saying, and your complaint says, half the money was to pay for the bills, that is your whole case. Your whole case is the bills.
No, ma'am, that was not why I wanted to see the judge. Why I wanted to come was because when I sent Jessica the check, she forged my name and took any money, period. It's the fact that she forged my name or she had somebody forge the name on my check.
Then what you're saying is it's not because you spent your own money out of your pocket to pay for her medical bills that you should be reimbursed for. You came to court and you wanted to see the judge because your daughter had forged your name and taken all the money.
Ma'am, that is correct. However,
all right.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
I don't care at this point about the $2,000 that is in dispute, whether you say I owe it or whatever. And you can keep the $2,000. I don't care. The dispute is she forged my name on the check.
And?
I would like her to have to pay for something that she's done wrong at least once in her life.
Ms. Triton, your daughter was under the age of 18 at the time you sent her this check, is that right?
That is correct.
And so she was still technically your responsibility?
No, ma'am.
Oh, no. She was your responsibility. You chose to abdicate that responsibility by putting her in foster care.
Can I tell you why she was put in foster care?
Sure.
When she was about 12 or 13, she started to hit people, and she would not stop. We had her arrested at least twice for domestic violence before she was put out of my house. I told
Ms. Triton, is it normal for a child who's 12 years old to act out in that way?
Yes, but...
You think it's normal for a child of 12 years old to act out in that way?
No, I don't.
Okay. So what did you as a parent do while she was living with you in order to try to get to the root of the problem as to why she was acting out in that way?
We sent her to counseling. I went to counseling with her. We tried to take my mom to counseling. We tried to get my son to go.
What do you mean you tried to take your mom to counseling?
My mom lived with us, and she would not go to counseling.
Well, was there a problem with your mother?
There's many problems with my mother, Judge.
Well, what was the problem with your mother and your daughter? What was the problem with your grandmother and you?
The main thing was before we had moved in with my grandmother, because for the longest time it was just me, my brother, and my mom. And then we decided, because my mother was working all the times, and me and my brother were from babysitter to babysitter, that it was just easier for us to live with my grandmother so she could watch us. Before we moved in with my grandmother, everything was fine. We were kids. We were allowed to go hang out, play with our friends, whatever. We moved in with my grandmother, and all that stopped. My brother was still allowed to do whatever he wanted, and I was constantly on lockdown. I wasn't allowed to talk on the phone, wasn't allowed to go hang out.
What do you mean you were on lockdown?
I was in the house 24/7. I wasn't allowed to go hang out with my friends. I wasn't allowed to go do anything school-related.
You mean your grandmother was strict with you?
Yes.
Okay. And you tried to get your mother to go to counseling?
Correct.
And your mother refused to go to counseling?
Exactly.
I assume you wanted your mother to go to counseling because you felt as if some of her behavior was not appropriate.
I felt between my mother, me, and Jessica that there was an issue that we needed to get to the bottom of. Yes.
Okay, and your mother refused to go?
Yes.
Your daughter went?
Yes.
You went?
Yes.
She's 12.
Actually, she was a little bit older.
She's 13. She's 14. I understand that you were a single mother and you had 2 children, but you put your daughter in a situation that you acknowledge was not the best situation for her, with your mother, with somebody who refused to address any problems that there were, and you responded to that when your daughter started to act out, which I'm sure she acknowledges was inappropriate, inappropriate behavior, but she started to act out, your response was, instead of moving out of your mother's house, you put her in foster care.
That's not exactly true. My mom lived with us because she could not work. She had nowhere else to go. My brother wouldn't take her. Nobody would take her.
Just a second. Is what you're telling me now that you had to make a choice between your mother and your daughter?
No.
That your mother had no place else to go and you couldn't put your mother in foster care, so you put your daughter in foster care?
No.
Come on.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to get what's happening here.
Can I kind of explain it? Jessica would go from hitting, then she went to punching. She tried to choke me. She went after her grandmother with a butcher knife. The reason that I finally put her out is because I told her, if you ever hit your brother, you cannot stay with me anymore. I put up with a lot of stuff. Even when she went to counseling, we found an excellent counselor for her, was working wonders for her. Then she decided that she didn't like him, and then she wouldn't talk to anybody. So when she hit her brother in the face, that's when I told her that she was no longer welcome in my home, because she was my daughter, and I didn't know what else to do.
Okay, so that's, just a second, so that's what you did. And then you had a problem with this check. Now, you don't have to answer me as to whether or not you forged your mother's name. You forged your mother's name, you cashed the check. That's what you did, right?
Correct.
Okay, what'd you do with the money?
I was living in my own apartment, and I needed furniture for my apartment.
How old were you when you were living in your
I
home?
was 17.
Okay.
Foster care has a program called independent living, and that's what they did. They put me in independent living. I needed pots and pans, dishes.
Okay, so you were living in an apartment.
Correct.
Did you know that she was living by herself?
Yes, I did.
Good. What did you do to help her set up in her apartment?
When she set up in her own apartment, we were already in New Jersey.
I didn't ask you where you were. I said, what did you do to help her set up in her own apartment?
When she called me, I asked her if she needed anything. She told me no, she was fine.
So the answer that you're telling me is you did nothing for her to set her up in her own apartment at age 17.
I asked her if she needed... Right, that's correct.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. The Kreitner says her daughter, Jessica Unterberger, stole her share of an insurance settlement.
Okay. So she says she needed furniture and pots and pans, and she needed some money. Were you working?
Yes.
What kind of work were you doing?
I was working at a pizza parlor.
Are you still working there?
No, that was in Ohio. I currently live in New York now.
And what do you do in New York?
During the summer season, I'm a soccer referee, and right now I'm working as a waitress.
Where?
At a restaurant on the east side.
You live alone?
Yes.
That's a hesitant yes.
Because I'm living in a room in a house. There's other people in the house, but it's my room.
So you rent a room?
Yes.
What's your rent?
$120 a week.
And how long have you lived there?
I've lived in this particular place for about 2 weeks now.
Prior to that, where were you living?
I was living in Ridgewood in another one room, and I was paying $90 a week there, and I lived there for 3 months. And before that, I was living with my fiancé's parents.
And that didn't work out?
No.
So from the time you were 17 until now, you've taken care of yourself?
Correct.
You got my drift.
I don't understand why you want to believe her, because what she's telling you is not true.
Just a second. All I'm asking you is, you're her mother.
That's correct.
From the time she was 17 until today, other than this $2,000, how much money have you given your daughter?
None, because I did not know where she was.
Now you know where she was. Whether you know where she was or you don't know where she was, you've given her nothing, and she's managed to support herself.
If that's what you want to call it.
Well, she's managed to support herself.
But what she's telling you she does for a living is not what she does for a living.
Well, tell me what she does for a living.
She has tried to sue the state of New York twice.
Yeah.
She has lied to you about where not where she lives, but who she lives with. And
listen to me. I asked you a simple question. You said to me she lied about what she does for a living. And I'm asking you if she lied about what she did for a living.
Yes, she did.
You tell me what she does for a living. Suing the city of New York is not a living.
I understand that.
All right.
What she told you and what she told me was that she works in a restaurant and she gets paid under the table.
Who cares?
But that is not true.
Well, so tell me what she does.
I'm not sure. But I know she doesn't do that.
Let's try. Now, let me tell you something. I was concerned.
You know what?
I'm speaking. I was concerned about your lawsuit from the beginning, because it seems to me that you were...
Again,
I'm speaking. You were in a car. You were the driver of the car. Your minor daughter was injured in an accident that, according to you, and I have no reason to doubt you, was not your fault. I have children, and if one of my children was injured in an accident, and the accident resulted in that child getting a claim, why don't you try paying attention instead of crying because you're not going to get any money?
I don't care about the money.
Then just listen. Then just listen. It would seem to me what I would do is I would say, gee, here's $4,000. I'm going to put this in an account for my child, for their future, either for college or to set them up in an apartment or to help them maybe with a car. But certainly, I didn't pay out any money because I had insurance that covered the medical bills.
That's not true.
And you didn't pay any money because I don't believe that either you or your husband paid any money, because if you did, you would have the canceled check. You would have your credit card statement showing that you paid the amount 2 years ago, because if you knew you were coming to court and that's the evidence that you required, that's the evidence that you would have. You say you're angry because she forged your name and she should be taught a lesson. Well, it was the wrong thing for her to do, to forge your name and to take the money to use to set up an apartment. But at the time she was 17 years old, she was placed in independent living, had your own apartment. You were working marginally to pay for whatever was in the apartment, and she needed the money. And since you weren't forthcoming with the money and you knew how to reach her because you knew where to send the check, you sent her the check and said, darling, sign the back of this check. When I get the money, I'll give you half.
That's not what happened.
That's what you told me in your complaint. You said, you want me to read you what you wrote? You said, I sent her the check unsigned. I sent it by certified mail.
That's correct.
Okay, so you knew where to send it.
Right after that.
Yeah, just a second. So you knew where to send it. And if you knew where to send it, was she in foster care or was she in her own apartment?
She was in her own apartment at that time.
Right. And how much had you given her at that time to help her set up an apartment? A little slush funds.
Considering that I had just found out that she was on her own, I couldn't have sent her anything, could I have? I did not know.
Yes, just a second.
I did not know.
Yes, my dear, you could have. You could have said, here's $4,000 that I just got.
But
I'm speaking. You're on your own. I'm signing this check over to you, my sweetheart. I know you've had a difficult teenage time. We haven't always gotten along, but you're on your own now. Here's $4,000 that none of us anticipated because you decided to settle the case for her. Here's $4,000. I want you to take it. Whatever you don't need, listen, whatever you don't need to set up your apartment, put in a bank account and use it with my love, because part of it should come to me. I'm giving it to you. That's what you should have done. You didn't do it then. You're doing it now. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
I can't believe this. You win again, you stupid.
My mom has a way of twisting things to make it out so that she's always right. She's always been against me, and I think the main part of that is because you look at me, she looks at me and she sees my father. It's been like this my whole life. I've been through foster care, I've been in and out of juvenile detention. Yes, I should not have hit her, but I had no other way to get out of that place. I don't want to get hurt anymore, so if this is how she's going to be, then I don't want to be around that. It's not healthy for me. I think I've paid enough for her. What kind of mother is she? She's just blood. That's all she is. She's not my mother. My foster mother, the one I was with for 2 years, that is my mother. You'll probably see us here in a couple of years. She'll find something else.
22-year-old restaurant manager Pirapon Pontupo is suing fellow motorist, paralegal April Montañez, for assaulting her during an incident of road rage. April claims Pirapon tried to spray her with mace.
Come to order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 365 on the calendar in the matter of Pontupo versus Montañez. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Ms. Pontupo, it is your claim that Ms. Montañez assaulted you during a road rage incident.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Montañez said she never touched you. Tell me where and when this happened.
On September 4th, 2004, me and my boyfriend, Michael Cheney, picked up my 16-year-old brother, and we were on our way to lunch.
Stop playing with your papers.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, now tell me what happened with the defendant.
I was in the middle lane trying to make a left turn into the shopping center where the restaurant is located on. And then I noticed a truck behind me, a dark blue Ford F-150. Miss Montañez was the driver of the truck, kept honking constantly at me, but I wasn't going to go because I wasn't going to get into a wreck. And then when I finally made the turn, she came really fast right after me. And I thought she was going to hit me. The front of her bumper was, like, right by my driver's side door. And my window was down at the time, and we exchanged a few profanities.
Who said what first?
I said, "What the?" And she started screaming all kinds of bad words at me. And then she reached into my car, grabbed me by my hair, and I felt a couple of punches, and I felt as if she was trying to pull me out of my car by my hair. My boyfriend saw that, and he said, "What is your problem?" And then he got out of the car, ran around my car. Then Miss Montana saw him coming toward her, so she ran back to her truck. And then my boyfriend then made the 911 call with the tech number, which I have the 911 transcript.
May I see it, please? Okay. Now, after she got back into the car, what did she do?
She parked on the front of the coin laundry and took out her laundry basket as if nothing happened and was going to start doing her laundry. And I was really shocked at the time. And then my boyfriend got back in a car, and then I can see the other two passengers in her truck, which is that lady and a man in the late 20s or early 30s in her passenger seat. I can see them trying to motion her back in the truck like it's not safe to be here anymore. And then they drove off, and I was so mad after I realized what happened to me. I start following them into the parking lot, and after I follow them to a quarter mile, my boyfriend is still on the 911 call at this time. He told me, he said, "It's okay, it's okay."
Okay, I got it. Now, did you seek medical treatment at any time for your injuries?
Yes.
Do you have a doctor's report?
No, I couldn't get in touch with him.
Okay. Tell me the way you felt.
I couldn't go to sleep. I couldn't lay on my left side because my head was hurting really bad, and I get the severe headaches.
How long did that last?
I would say a little bit over a week, and I couldn't go to work for a week because of it.
Okay, Miss Montanez, you want to tell me your version of the events, please?
We were on Singleton Road. It was my daughter's birthday that day, and I had to go to the laundromat to pick up some laundry. And there was a lot of cars going by at the moment when I stopped behind her, and I could see down because my truck is up high, and I could see down, and you could hear their music because it was kind of a warm day, and our windows were down. And I saw her talking to some individual, the passenger in the car, but I figured she just got caught up in her music, like all teenagers, and talking. So I honked my horn.
She's not a teenager.
Well, she looked like one at the time, but she was having a conversation. I honked my horn to let her know to go. She got mad. She stuck her hand out the window and did a profanity and called me an F and B. So I turned in before her into the shop.
Just a second. So what you did is you went around her.
Correct.
Keep going.
I pulled in front of her, and then I made the left turn and parked right in front of the laundromat because there's like an island right there where you can park. I got out of the truck. We started arguing, cursing at each other and everything, and my sister got out of the truck, and I was just like, ugh, I don't have time to deal with this because I thought they were teenagers. So I turned around and was going to go in the laundromat, didn't even make it in the laundromat, and I heard my sister screaming, "April, April, come on." And I turned around. When I turned around, I saw her boyfriend with rings in his nose, and just the way he looked, it scared me like a skinhead, and I'm like, oh my God, let's get in the car. So I jump in the truck. When I'm getting in the truck, she has her mace gun. We have a 14-day-old baby in the truck. It was myself, the baby, and then my sister. She's going through the window and she's doing all like this, but for some oddball reason, the mace had stuck. And my sister's rushing to roll the window up in case she did unstick it. And I said, oh my God, Stephanie, let's go. This is crazy. I can't believe this. I put my truck in reverse, and I backed out, and I went back the same way I come in. She come behind me and was following me, and I was going at a fast-paced speed to get away from her because it scared me.
When did you call the police?
I didn't call the police.
Right. You're telling me that someone tried to mace you in your car with a little tiny baby in the car, following you, a lunatic, and you never called the police?
Well, Your Honor, the reason why I didn't call the police is because I saw her boyfriend. When I was coming back to my truck, he was talking to the 911 officer.
Now, why
and he said, write her tag number down.
Why would you think they would call 911 And at the time they called the police, this is what they reported. They didn't know the person, got mad when they were making a turn into PL. She started screaming, went around, got out, and hit the female in the face and pulled her hair while screaming at the female. He didn't say they're having a screaming match. Didn't say anybody took out mace. Said, my girlfriend got punched in the face and got her hair pulled, and we don't know who this person is.
And the reason why I didn't call at the time, Your Honor, I did not have my cell phone. I was just nervous, and I was ready to get out of there.
Very good. Now, what?
I have a police report from this incident, and she told a totally different story.
Can I see the police report, please?
To the police.
You're the reason that they didn't follow up and press charges because you confirmed her story. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to tell you something. I'm smarter than the police. So you want to risk it? Get up. We understand each other? That requires an answer, yes or no?
Yes.
Do you understand me?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you choose to stand up and testify, or would you like to remain in your seat?
I like to testify.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Bo says she was assaulted in a parking lot by fellow motorist April Montanez. Parapon says April tried to pull her out of her car by her hair.
Your name?
Stephanie.
You have a last name?
Imes.
You want to tell me the story?
It's pretty much what my sister said.
It's pretty much what your sister said?
We were going to Kroger's. She was in front of my sister. It was busy coming traffic. She beeped the horn. They had music.
How many times did she beep the horn?
It was like 2 or 3 times for her to go.
2 or 3 times? Your sister told me she beeped the horn only once.
It was like 2 or 3 times for her to go, like a rapid beep for her to go.
So it was 2 or 3 times, but it was like 1 time because it was so fast.
Yeah, it's like a rapid beep.
Right. Okay.
So they had the music going. She beeped the horn. She leaned out of the car. She flicked her off and said some stuff, some cuss words. My sister went ahead because no cars were coming. She went in front of the lady. The car came in behind us. We turned to go towards the laundromat. My sister parked next to the little island. The laundromat is right across from the car. My sister got out of the car. They were arguing back and forth, cussing at each other. Then my sister, I kind of stood out to hear what was going on. My sister walked into the laundromat. I got back in the truck.
Did she carry anything into the laundromat?
I think she had...
Just a second. Look at me. Did she carry anything into the laundromat?
Yes.
What did she take out of the car?
It was some outfits, I guess. Yes.
Were the outfits in a basket?
No. No.
No basket?
No.
Just things in her hand? Now, what were you going to the laundromat for?
To pick up some clothes, and I think she had to dry clean the clothes that she had for the party. But at the time that I was waiting for my sister, this female came up to the truck as I got back in. She had some mace in her hand, and she was trying to
Was that before or after your sister hit her?
She didn't hit her.
Yes, she did. Sit down.
Your Honor,
yes, she did. Oh, yes, she did. She hit her, and she pulled her hair. And she was really annoyed. You want to know why I know she was really annoyed? Because she had a 2-week-old baby in the car, and instead of sitting there waiting for traffic to move, she sped up around and went around a car that was waiting to make a left turn and pulled out in front of her. That's something that someone does who has no judgment. And they only do it when they're annoyed.
No, ma'am.
I didn't ask you anything. I listened to you. You know, there's an old expression. If it doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Because we've all drivers have been in the same situation that you were in. Sometimes you're behind somebody, and for some reason, they don't make a turn when they're supposed to. The arrow is green. They're waiting, they're talking, they're involved in the phone, they're listening, they're daydreaming, and you're looking and you're saying, that's the only shade of green there's going to be, right? Why isn't this person going? If you have a short fuse, you'll honk the horn a few times, and if that's not successful, you'll peel out, which is what you did. You peeled out with a baby in the car, went around her in order to make a left turn because you thought that there was a clear enough avenue of traffic so that you could make the turn. I believe everything that she says. You had a bad hair day.
No, ma'am, I did.
Oh, yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Your sister got you back into the... Listen to me. And your sister got you back into the car because you both saw the boyfriend on the phone with the police. That's what you just told me. A moment ago you said, I didn't have to call the police because I knew they were calling the police. And if you knew they were calling the police, then you stay there and wait for the police. You don't take off. What you just told me was, I didn't call the police because of this Mace, thinking fast, because he was calling the police. And if somebody is calling the police, and if you are a victim of a crime, you remain there with the doors locked, windows up, you don't get out to go and take your clothes into the dry cleaners.
Because none of this took place, Your Honor. We just argued. We had our words.
Madam, I don't
She tried to get me.
Madam, I don't believe you. And I don't believe
can I bring
your sister.
something else to evidence?
Absolutely. Show it to me.
Okay, I have a disposition of a hearing when she tried to file simple battery and simple assault charges, and we went to Gwinnett County courts, and they were dismissed for insufficient evidence as well. Because in the police report, it says that the police officer, there was no physical evidence on the victim other than a few strands of hair that was allegedly pulled out by the suspect.
Listen to me, madam. She's not saying you broke her skin.
But there would have been swelling or something for the officer. This never took place, Your Honor.
I'm telling you, it took place, madam.
It didn't.
Listen, because you got over on a cop, and because you got over perhaps on a district attorney, you and your sister, who wouldn't know the truth if it came up and slapped her in the face, doesn't mean that I have to believe you. Your story doesn't make sense. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I insulted her race. She insulted mine. She told me she was going to get me.
The defendants, it's worse than a piece of dog.
If you would have saw her boyfriend, like 6 foot tall, earrings, a dragon tattoo on his neck.
He's 6'2", but he also weighed as much as she does, which is they both weighed 185 pounds.
I was just in a rush to get out of there because in Atlanta, people have been shot by road rage.
It's just that she's a lying
Planner Lisa Jefferson Brooks is suing her estranged husband's ex-girlfriend, loan officer Katie Lamphere, for the cost of a paternity test and for loans to keep Katie off the streets.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 401 on the calendar in the matter of Jefferson Brooks versus Lamphere. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ah, Miss Brooks, this is a very strange tale that I'm sure you're going to try to simplify for me. Miss Lamphere is the ex-girlfriend of your ex-husband, and for some strange and bizarre reason, you decided to become friends. She has a couple of children, I believe one of whom your ex-husband was paying support for as his child. You allege in your complaint that you made a series of loans to your ex-husband's ex-girlfriend, and then you took one child for a paternity test without her permission. And the test established, according to you, that he was not the father of this child. And Miss Lamphere said, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm prepared to reimburse you for the cost of the test. That's what the case is about.
Basically.
Okay. First, when were you divorced?
Actually, my husband and I were still technically married, but in the state that we live in, you have to be separated for a year.
When did you separate?
2 months ago.
And when did you start making this series of loans to Miss Lamphere?
At the end of July of this year.
Was he happy about you making loans to Miss Lamphere?
I don't know that he was happy about it, but it was a situation where Miss Lamphere and her children, she has 3 girls. At the end of May, they were being evicted from where they were living at. They relocated to the state where we were relocating to, which is my hometown. They really didn't have anywhere to go. She had secured a job, and we were keeping my husband's daughter and her sister.
Your husband's daughter is how old?
11.
Okay, so that child was living with you?
For 1 month. We kept them for 1 month.
Okay. Go ahead.
Her sister, who's 8 years old, is a little girl who Miss Lamphere had alleged was his daughter. We were not paying support for Ashley. That's her name.
You were paying support for the 11-year-old?
Whatever arrangements he worked out with her, that was between the 2 of them. They had already had this child before we got married.
Which child, the 11-year-old or the 8-year-old, did you take for a paternity test?
The 8-year-old.
And how do you take a child for a paternity test without the mother?
That was during the time that she was staying with us.
Did she go too for the paternity test?
The mother did not go, no ma'am.
Well, how do you take a paternity test without both parents and the child?
The father and the child went, they took pictures, they took samples, and they ran the test.
Never heard that. Okay, let's get back to the loans. Tell me about the loans.
She was securing a place to stay for her and her children. She needed $2,000 to secure the place to live.
So tell me who she called, you or your husband?
She called me directly.
Had you been friendly before?
We were civil.
Civil?
Yes.
What did she say to you?
She said, I found a place to stay, and I need to borrow the money to secure it.
And you lent her the money?
That was the first loan.
How did you get the $2,000?
Lisa wired it from her bank account into the bank account from the people that I was renting the house from.
How did she know to do that?
In July, 2 of my children did go and stay with her husband and her. My oldest daughter is her husband's daughter, my 11-year-old. They went there for the summer. It was supposed to be during a summer vacation, and I did come across a very hard time, and I did have to move from Virginia back to South Carolina.
Okay.
So I went to South Carolina, and I had a job there, and I needed to find a home, obviously, and be able to have the money to move into it. And her husband had called me and said to me, listen, Katie, I know Lisa and I know you're going through a hard time. It's hard for us to have the girls here because both of us are working. You need to get set up in a house and get the kids back. So he had called me and told me that you find a house, we'll give you the money to move.
Did you ever say that to her?
Absolutely not, and it's impossible for
Just
Mr.
a second,
Brooks.
she never said that to you. Money came from her bank. She never said it to you. I don't believe that.
The money, though, was $1,700 was for back child support also.
No. She's not responsible for back child support.
That was the agreement. She had offered $1,700 to go towards his $30-some thousand of support that was owed.
Just a second. Who did she say that she was going to give $1,700 to?
Me.
When?
July, I believe it was around the 15th.
Is that right?
That's absolutely not true because the transaction, the wire did not take place until the end of July.
Okay. When did she tell you she was going to pay you back?
Within 6 weeks of the loan.
She told you that?
Yes, ma'am.
On the phone?
An email.
Can I see it?
Yes, ma'am.
It's clear that you acknowledged loans to her. Why are you making up a story?
I'm not making up a story. She did wire the money into an account.
It says, I promise I'll pay you back. It's me, I'm the pain in the butt again. I need to ask you one more favor.
To borrow $600. $1,700 was given to me.
By her?
Yes.
Oh, ridiculous.
And Lisa, $1,700 was given to me.
And the paternity test?
When they called me and told me about the paternity test being done.
Yeah.
And they said, we took Ashley to have a paternity test.
Which was out of line. No question, which was out of line.
First of all, I was going through a very hard time in my life.
I don't care about your hard time. What I care about is whether or not you agreed to pay her back for the paternity test. I mean, I think it was nervy for her to take your daughter for a paternity test, but I'm asking you, did you agree to pay her back for the paternity test?
I did.
You did. I know you did, but that's not what you say in the answer.
I was devastated when I found out that they did that.
I tell you who else is devastated, your 8-year-old daughter.
No.
No. Guarantee you. Well, the results of the paternity test, he was clearly excluded as anyone who was possible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I have $510 for the paternity test, $2,000 and $600 that you needed for truck.
Yes, ma'am, but there's also the matter of $900.
For?
That's the $900 that she used to set up the card that she referenced in the email.
Is that right?
There was $600.
6 or 9?
It was $600.
Okay, going to give you a chance. Got 5 minutes.
May I say something about the paternity test? My daughter's birth certificate has her biological father's name on it. Her husband knew that that birth certificate had another name on it. We had discussed the possibility of him actually being the biological father, and we had reasons behind that. They took my daughter and had the paternity test. I didn't ask for them to do that. He had never mentioned to me about having the paternity test at that time. I was told after they went to do it. I did say in the email, I will pay back the $600 because I was upset and devastated, but I don't feel at this time they had the right to take my daughter without me at least being there with her.
You're absolutely right. I think it was the wrong thing to do. But you agreed to pay for the test. Other than the fact that you agreed to pay for it, I would not find you at fault and order you to pay it. But you agreed to pay for it. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,710. What caused you to separate from your husband?
It was a series of things. It really didn't have anything to do with Miss Lamphere.
How long were you married to him?
It'll be 9 years this month.
And she filed this against me after they separated.
So?
She offered $1,700 of that money to me.
Let me ask you this question. Think logically. Why would a perfect stranger support you and your children? And why would you take from a perfect stranger?
She's not.
And she's a perfect stranger to you. She is not related to you by blood, and she's not related to you by marriage at all. She doesn't know you anything. Grow up. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,710.
Thank you, ma'am.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
This was the first little bit of help that I would have gotten from them.
It wasn't for Miss Lanfair, it was for her children.
I was in a state of devastation.
It's just too much drama.
Former service rep Cindy Blankenship is suing her ex-boyfriend, contractor Robert DiFrancesco, for rent and for trying to strangle her. Cindy claims the assault took place at the end of their month-long drug binge.
Ms. Blankenship, according to what I read, you and the defendant met at a bar, and he came home with you the same evening and stayed for a while. And according to your complaint, you had an agreement with him that he was going to pay you rent.
Yes, Your Honor.
And he stayed with you, I don't know, 3-4 weeks. He didn't pay any rent. And then you got into some sort of an altercation with him and claimed that he assaulted you.
Yes.
Mr. DiFrancesco says there was never an agreement to pay you rent, that he spent 5 months in jail because you made false charges of assault against him. He was ultimately released, and you want a certain amount of money for rent and $1,500 for this alleged assault.
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
Okay. On what day did you meet Mr. DiFrancesco?
It was the beginning of May.
In the evening?
Yes.
And you met him for the first time?
Yes, I did.
And he came home with you?
Yeah, we ended up going to my house. We were going to have a drink at my house. 3 days later, he's still at my home.
Okay, 3 days later, did you say? Well, 3 days later, I assume you let him stay. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, tell me about this agreement that you allege about rent.
Well, as I said, 3 days later, he's still at my house. He informed me that he didn't have any place to go. He had just gotten out of jail, which I wish I had known that, or else if I had, I wouldn't have let him come to my home. Told me he had nowhere to go. And we had both decided, let's try a fast, instant relationship, see what happens. Told him he wasn't going to live with me for nothing. He said he was a hard worker. He had no problem paying me $125 a week. The 30 days that he was with me, he worked maybe 2 days. All of his money went on cocaine. So that's what basically he felt that he was going to be doing at my house. And towards the end of it, I said I had enough.
Now, towards the end of it, I had enough is what I want to hear about, the night of this alleged assault. I'd like you to tell me in your own words what happened, Miss Blankenship.
We had been drinking at my house that day.
You do a lot of drinking?
Yeah, we had been out.
And he does a lot of drinking?
Yeah.
Do you also do drugs, or you just drink?
I didn't skip back into drugs until I hooked up with Bobby.
So then the answer is for the 30 days that you were together in your house, you were both drinking and doing drugs?
Yes.
And I assume he was purchasing the drugs?
No, I was. He didn't have any money.
Okay, so you were purchasing the drugs and giving it to him?
Basically, we were doing them together.
No. If you bought them and gave them to him. Is that what you're telling me? Oh. So tell me about the last night that you were together, the night of this alleged assault.
We had been out at one of the local bars drinking. We got I believe it was a 12-pack, went back to my house. When that was all done, we went back out drinking. I suggested that we get something to eat. I was going to get Chinese food. He said, fine, went home. I was getting the food ready, putting it on plates and everything. I turned around. Bobby's leaning up against the counter with his pants down to the floor, offering me something other to eat than the Chinese food.
And?
I was quite appalled by this whole thought at the moment. I went into the living room. I sat down. I figured I'd try and calm down for a few minutes. I went into the kitchen. He's now eating the Chinese food.
By this time, he's dressed himself.
Yeah.
And he's eating the Chinese food.
Yes.
And what happened?
I asked him if he wanted some rice with the food, and I threw a box of beef fried rice at him.
So you assaulted him with the rice?
No, I threw the rice at the floor.
No, your hand motion was...
Well, I threw the rice, but it wasn't at him physically. It was at the floor.
Well, that's not what you say in your complaint, by the way. You say that you started to throw the Chinese food at him.
In his direction.
In his direction. Mm-hmm. Okay. And what happened after you were throwing the Chinese food in his direction?
Well, I ended up asking him if he needed some sweet sauce with it. After that, we Ended up getting into an argument. It boiled down to I was sitting at a chair at the kitchen table trying to figure out what we were going to do with this relationship. We got into an argument. He lunged over the kitchen table, grabbed me by the throat, and started to strangle me.
Ms. Blankenship, you left something out, madam, that you put in your complaint. And that was that there was a time that Mr. DeFrancesco just said, I want to get out of here. And that was before you started with the food fight.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to go to the door to leave and get his clothes and leave. And you say in your complaint that you prevented him from leaving.
I, for whatever stupid reasons, didn't want him to take his clothes at the time. I felt that he owed me money for being there, and I figured that we'd straighten it out at some other time.
So you blocked the door?
I blocked the door.
And it was after you blocked the door that he lunged at you?
Shortly after that.
Now, you called the police and had him arrested.
When I could get to a phone, I called the police. He ripped the phones out of the wall.
Now, when did you finally get to the police?
After I got his hands off my throat.
Okay. So he took his hands off your throat. You called the police, and I assume you let him leave at that point.
I didn't let him leave. He went running out the door. This is after he pulled the alarm system out of the wall. I tried calling 911 from 2 telephones. He kept pulling the phones out of my hand, pressing the off
At
button.
that point, I assume, Ms. Blankenship, that you were ready to let him leave.
Yeah.
Now, what hospital did you go to?
I didn't.
So if you didn't go to a hospital, I assume you weren't injured.
I was injured, but there wasn't anything that I felt that they could do to me
How
that
were
was
you
going to
injured?
make the marks go away.
How were you injured?
By him strangling me, I had marks on my arm, on my face.
Did you take any
I have
photographs
the
of it?
police report and pictures.
I'd like to see.
Plus, I didn't go right to the hospital, or I didn't go to the hospital because the police wanted me to go to the police station. I was down there for about 3-4 hours.
I noticed that in your statement to the police, you didn't tell the police that Mr. DeFrancesco wanted to leave, or that the mess that they observed in the kitchen of the Chinese food all over the place was the result of you throwing it all over the place. How come you didn't tell them that?
Oh, I don't recall whether I did or didn't.
You
Your
didn't.
Honor.
Trust me, you didn't.
Well, regardless of that, he has no rights to try to strangle me.
You had no right to try to keep him in the house.
Oh, I didn't physically block his entrance from
That's
leaving.
what you
the
said.
door
That's
was right there.
That's exactly what you said.
I stopped him from getting his clothing, not from walking
No,
out
that's
the door.
not what you said, madam. You said, when I returned, I was still so angry that I started to throw food at him. He was going to get his stuff and leave, but I was too angry to let him leave with his clothes. I blocked the door.
I blocked the door from him getting his clothes in the bedroom.
So why didn't you let him get his clothes? You were both too drunk.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Cindy Blankenship says ex-boyfriend Robert DeFrancesco owes for strangling her. Robert says Cindy threw Chinese food at him.
Madam, he'd been drinking, according to you, for days. Drinking and doing drugs for days. All right, I'm prepared to hear you, Mr. DeFrancesco.
Your Honor, I first met Cindy. She's right. I did get
I
out of
heard
jail.
that how you met her. You met her at a bar. You went home with her and you stayed too long.
No, I went home with her, and that night I left. At 5 in the morning, some other gentleman called, and I had to leave. And she brought me to my brother's house. And then the next day, I went to see her. We did some gardening work, whatever. And
Could you look at me instead of looking over there?
oh, I'm sorry. Off and on, we stayed together for about 3 weeks. I'd see her for a few days. It would be okay. Then she'd start yelling at me for stupid little things, and it would get all crazy. And I'd say, I'm going to leave. So one time she called the police, and I'd already left. So
he was trying to run my household.
Could you look at me when you're speaking, sir?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Your Honor. When the cops came, they just came because she just wanted me to leave, and I'd already left. So I told her, I said, I'm on probation and stuff like that. I can't have any problems with the police, so I don't think this is going to work out. So to make a long story short, we'd gone back and forth.
You're still looking over there.
Back and forth, and then another time the police came to get me. The same thing. I just left. I had my bag of clothes. It was raining out. I left.
You shouldn't be drinking with her, sir. I mean, but the problem is you're two drunks living together.
Well, Your Honor, the day in question of the day that I got arrested, I was working all day. I was working all day. She was at the bar. She was supposed to be going to get her motorcycle license or whatever, but it got done early. She came home. So then I got upset with her. I'd already told her a few times, if this continues, we're not going to stay together. I can't handle this. You're too abusive.
She assaulted me.
Your Honor, she assaulted me on other occasions. You know what I mean, and stuff like that. I don't hit women. She was hitting me.
Mr. DeFrancesco, how come you spent 5 months in jail? Were you on probation or parole?
I was on probation, but I was charged with assault with intent to murder, and intimidating a witness.
Okay.
That's what I was charged with.
Okay. And those charges were ultimately tossed.
They were dropped because she pled the fifth, because she didn't want to perjure herself.
Well, for whatever reason. They should have been dropped a long time ago. What had you just been released from jail for?
Assault and battery, malicious damage. I got into a big fight at a bar. I did like 2 years.
Mr. DeFrancesco, may I suggest to you, sir, that you are not a good drunk? Do you understand? You're not a good drunk. And if you're going to continue to drink, I wouldn't take up with somebody who is also a bad drunk. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
That's what I
How old
tried to
are
do.
you, sir?
I'm 42 years old.
You look every day of it, Mr. DeFrancesco. You're getting old before your time, sir.
Well, Your Honor, I did try to leave. That's why, that's why I feel it's bogus.
Mr. Blankenship, you don't have a case. He didn't try to murder you. You were two
If he
drunks
didn't
having...
try to murder me, Your Honor, why did they charge him with attempted murder from the marks all over me?
Listen to
why
me.
did I call 911?
I'm telling you why you called 911, because he finally got fed up with you, and he probably did try to choke you. That's why. That's not attempted murder, just like you throwing Chinese food at him is not assault. You want to drink and do drugs with somebody who also drinks and does drugs? That's what happens. What are you bothering me for? Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I tried to get out of the relationship, and it just ended up being violent.
It's obviously started a different way from him dropping his drawers to the floor and so on, making any type of sexual advances that he wanted to happen. So, I mean, it's insane.
Those are personal issues. That's stuff that normal people do, It's just that it just got carried away.
Him and I being together, drinking, not knowing what kind of relationship we were going to get into. So I wish it had never started from the beginning.
Of course, if you drink and drug, it's going to cause problems, But what she stated, that just shows it's one of her traits, you know what I mean? She just talks crazy.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Kangas versus Kangas, step forward, please.
Licensed investigator Paul Kangas is suing his son, 21-year-old movie theater clerk Shane Kangas, for unauthorized credit card charges and for money owed on a computer. Shane says he worked off the debt by working in the family business.
Mr. Kangas, this young man is your son.
Yes, Your Honor.
How old is he?
21.
What do you do?
I work at a movie theater.
What do you do there?
I serve people popcorn, clean up at the night.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Computer technician.
Okay. Mr. Kangas, you say that your son came to live with you, and you also purchased a computer for him, and I understand that the agreement was it was going to be paid for in sort of barter. He was going to put in a certain number of hours working for your business, which is private investigating business.
Yes, Your Honor.
And that would pay off the computer.
Yes.
And you also gave him a credit card.
I did.
And told him to use it, but use it wisely.
It's to help him in the business, so when I send him out to do something, like go to the lab to develop film, that he'd have a way of paying for the film, picking up the film.
And what about personal stuff if he needed something?
Personal stuff, he had to check with me before he spent beyond $20. I have the same arrangement with my daughter, and she honors it strictly with her credit card.
That's what makes horse racing, sir. Children
Yes.
are different.
That's for sure.
Okay. After several months, he decided he didn't like it anymore, so he decided to sit in his room, play his guitar, whatever. You got annoyed. He left. You wanted to pay for the computer and for the credit card bills that he racked up while he was still using the credit card. That's what your lawsuit's about.
Somewhat. It's the reason for buying the computer for him was to motivate him. So I made this deal with him. Look, you pick out any computer you want, and the deal is you'll pay for it out of the amount of time you put in. I'm only asking you to work 4 hours a day. We lived across the street from the courts, so it was easy for him.
Well, how long did he work for you after you bought him the computer?
Several months. He was doing quite well. He was really motivated.
Well, how much did he work off of the computer?
About $1,000 of it.
That's a pretty nebulous contract that you have with him, Mr. Kangas.
Well, he didn't last that long because he got so into the computer. I mean, he'd be up at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning on the computer, and I'm trying to sleep. I was trying to motivate him. I was trying to control him. I was trying to exert some parental influence on him.
All sounds terrific. Remember the father knows best?
Yes, I do.
It's not like that anymore.
Well, it's...
families don't sit around in shirts and ties having dinner together anymore. Everything that you did with your son sounds as if you had the right motivation. He was going to work, and he was going to pay off this computer, and he was going to be responsible with the credit card.
That's right.
Right.
But then we got into a dispute over the computer, and then he moved out and started spending the credit card like it was his credit card and it was free money, and he just started sending me these bills for huge amounts of money.
Well, what I would like to see is the bills after he moved out. And then, Bert, you know what we're going to do? We need one of those great fly swatters that we used to have. Because there's a sucker here that's looking to meet its ancient relatives.
I think I got just what you need.
You or me?
Oh. Took a nice little nosedive right into your cup. No, no.
See what happens when I get annoyed?
Yes,
Okay. What date did you move out, young man?
It was 14 months ago.
Well, give me a month.
June or July.
June or July. So let me see the bills after June or July. Let's do July.
Well, the deal was no crazy expenses. And
Mr. Kangas, listen to me very carefully, sir. I raised a lot of teenagers, and they are so creative with a credit card.
Yeah.
I didn't know for a very long time that when I gave a kid a gas credit card, that they could go in and get enough food for their entire dormitory in one of those gas places. I didn't know that. And I said, how could they use so much gas? The campus isn't that big. Where are you using all that gas? And then I realized that you can buy milk and juice and newspapers and cookies and snacks and eggs. And you can not only buy, listen, and you can not only buy it for yourself, but you can buy it for all your friends, because if you buy it for all your friends, they give you the cash.
Right.
Do you understand? Listen, Mr. Kangas, I know that happens. I didn't sue my children. So what I want to see is, after he left, because it was clear to me that when you left, you should have left the credit card.
He did. I took it away from him.
And how did he use it?
I don't know how he got another one.
How did you use it, sir? Shh. Is not an answer.
I had the number on my computer still, so I could still make online purchases.
Okay. Now, Mr. Kangas, what's your first name?
Shane.
Shane. So let me explain this to you. The computer, sir, is yours because your father made a too soft a deal for me to have to figure out how many hours you worked and whether or not you paid for the computer with the work that you did for it. That's his problem. But you're a big boy. So you knew that when you moved out of the house and your father took the credit card from you, you were not supposed to use it, right? Is not an answer.
Sorry.
If he took the credit card from you, he said to you, what did he say? Give me the credit card, and if you need it, go look on your computer and get the number? Give me the fly swatter. Let me explain something to you. He's a computer hacker.
That's right.
And he's going to go into your bills, and if he has your social security number, he'll steal your identity, and all of a sudden you'll find that you bought 9 surfboards.
Then he took the credit card out of my ex-wife's purse and went back to spending it again.
Well, it doesn't say much for you, sir, that you raised a thief.
No, I feel it's the unexpected legacy of divorce.
That is a crock. That's not the legacy of divorce. I've been divorced, and I had children, and none of them are thieves. 5 of them. Nobody would go into my pocketbook and steal my credit card. So that's ridiculous.
Well, he's depressed, and I feel that...
He's depressed?
Yeah, he's got a
he's depressed. He's a thief. That's not being depressed. Look at him. Does he look depressed to you? He doesn't look depressed to me.
He's got a lack of...
A little high, maybe, but not depressed. Right, Shane?
No.
Really?
Really?
Really? I see $849 on the credit card after July.
Unfortunately, I put all of the receipts in a special envelope, put it in a special place, and then I couldn't find it, so that by the time I got here, that's what I had. I understand. I should have had better control of my file.
No, you should have better control of your son.
That
judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $849. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I can understand where he's coming from because a similar thing happened to me and my father at this age.
We had a fight towards the end of me living there.
And eventually we got back together.
I'm going to go off and do my own thing.
I hope that Shane will sometime recognize me as a friend again, because we had a great relationship.
Bottler James Newsom is suing his friend's ex-landlord, property owner Lai Chen, for maliciously allowing his dog to run away. Lai is countersuing, claiming James damaged her property and stole her gun.
Yeah, this is case number 331 on the calendar in the matter of Newsom versus Chan. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Mr. Newsom, it is your claim that owing to the defendant's negligence, your dog ran away. I assume this is the dog. As a result of that, you found the dog in pound. You had vet bills, pound costs, etc. Ms. Chan says that you were a squatter on her property. You were not a tenant there, that the dog was left in her backyard. She opened the gate to leave. Your dog ran out. She had absolutely no obligation to go chasing after your dog. And in addition, she says that while you were a squatter there, you hit her house with your truck. You caused damage to her home. She wants you to pay for that. Ms. Newsom, do you own this house?
I own the house.
How many apartments do you have in the house?
3 houses over there, triplex.
3 houses?
Right, triplex.
And Mr. Newsom, he is not a tenant of yours, is that right?
No, not at all.
Is that right, sir?
Yeah, I didn't live there.
Did you park your truck there at her house?
I visited my friend Mario on the weekends because I lived in L.A. at the time, and then I was working in Yorba Linda, so I stayed in Yorba Linda during the week, and I come in town on the weekends and stay with him on the weekends.
So you were staying there with your truck?
Yes, on weekends.
For how long?
I don't know, a month and a half or something, I forget now. He was, until Mario moved out. I don't remember, I wasn't paying attention.
Well, let's try to pay attention and get specific. What month did you start to come in to visit Mario?
It would have been November 2003 through December of 2003.
And when did your dog disappear?
I guess, from what I understand, it was 4 days before I came to pick him up, which would have been on the 15th of October, I guess. I realized he had disappeared on the 19th when I came to pick him up.
You said you stayed there from November of 2003 till December of 2003.
That's right.
Your dog disappeared in October. That doesn't make sense.
That's right, because I wasn't staying there when my dog was being watched there. I went to Oregon to visit a friend and his mother who was dying. When I came back is when I, at that point, started staying there. And he was watching my dog for me while I was gone in Oregon.
How long did you leave your dog there?
I don't know, I think 10 days it was.
What's your name, Mario?
Yes, ma'am.
Stand up. Mr. Carmona, where was Mr. Newsom staying when he stayed in your house?
He would either stay upstairs, sleep on the floor upstairs, or because I had my aunt, my brother, and his girlfriend at the time, he didn't want to be a further inconvenience. So he said just lend him a couple blankets and he'd go ahead and just sleep in his bed of his truck for the night. I'd tell him to go upstairs and sleep in the...
And in what month did he come to stay with you?
He didn't live, like you said, he would come over and visit on the weekends, but that started around November, about November.
All right. Now, when he left in October, he says he left his dog with you. Did he leave his dog with you?
Yes, he asked me if I could keep an eye on his dog while he went to go take care of some business that he had to take care of up in Oregon, I believe it was.
So, did you take care of his dog?
Yes, he left all the food that he needed. He left it upstairs with me.
How did the dog get away?
That is a good question. There was an incident where the dog was running around loose prior to Mr. Newsom leaving to Oregon. I had to call him because I couldn't put the dog back on his leash, on his runner.
Why not?
He wouldn't listen to me. I called Mr. Newsom. He had to drive back an hour. He put him back on the leash, and I informed everybody in my house, don't let him off the runner. He had plenty of rope, plenty of chains so he could run around.
So you left him in the backyard?
He had a big backyard to run around.
You left him in the backyard?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he come into the house in the evening?
No.
So you left him in the backyard all the time?
Yes.
Was this backyard solely for you and the 2 other people on the lease, or was it for a lot of other people?
It was a shared backyard.
Well, what gives you the right to put the dog in the backyard?
None, but I did ask Ms. Chan that I was going to be keeping an eye on the dog. There was a doghouse in the back, because there was already a dog
When did you ask Ms. Chan if you could keep the dog?
Before Mr. Newsom left for Oregon.
Did he,
asked her.
Ms. Chan?
No.
Of course not.
Yes, I did.
No, I don't believe you.
Okay.
Don't believe you, sir.
No.
If you had a dog that you couldn't control, and there were other tenants using that backyard, it is unlikely that a landlord whose insurance is responsible would say, sure, keep a dog that's uncontrollable in the backyard so my other tenants are going to have trouble. Unlikely.
Ma'am.
All right. Do you know how the dog got away?
No, ma'am. All I know is when I left to work that morning, the dog was on the leash. When I came home, it wasn't on the leash. I spoke to Ms. Chan, asked what happened.
And what did she say?
She said she had opened up the gate to give both dogs, because the other tenants that lived on the property had a pit bull that, if Ms. Chan may remember correctly, the first day that I went over there to look at the apartment
Just,
before I moved in,
just do me a favor. Just tell me what happened with your dog.
I asked what happened to the dog.
And she said?
She said that she let the dogs out to play, and she opened up the gate so they could run around, and they never came back.
What happened, Miss Chan?
No, because I went out. I parked in my car in the backyard. When I go out, I go to get my car, and I gotta go. So I opened my gate, I went, and the dog went too. They both went together. One is female, one's male.
So they were not on a leash?
No.
They were not on the
all.
lead?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
And you didn't go after them?
No.
Right. I wouldn't go after them.
It's not my dog. Why should I go after them?
Absolutely right. What else do you want to tell me?
I would like to tell you that Mrs. Chan was totally comfortable with my dog being there. And once I come back from Oregon and found my dog, took him to the vet, took care of all that, and I still continued to come on weekends and visit. She had no problem with me helping her property. Her property was in pretty bad state of...
what does that have to do with your dog?
It's got to do with the fact that she was comfortable with me being there when I was helping her out on her property. She was, before her denying that my dog was allowed to be there, she had no problem with my dog being there.
Just a second. You're not following, sir. She has no duty to run after your dog.
But she has the duty, if she says it's okay for my dog to be in that yard, to allow it to be there while it's there.
Listen to me, sir. She has no duty to run after your dog.
You're right. Unless she let him off his leash.
She says she didn't.
Of course she did. She's not going to admit to it now that I've got a $500 bill in front of her. Yeah, I guess not. She was pretty sure I wasn't going to sue her either. But the problem we have here is...
Listen, Slick, take care of your own dogs. If you have to go to Oregon, take your dog with you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Ex-landlord Lai Chen allowed his dog to run away. Lai says James is homeless and he was squatting on her property.
Listen to me. I want to know if when you were going into her house, you banged into her house.
I never went in
with your
her
truck.
house, and I did not hit her house.
Okay. When do you say he hit your house with his truck?
During the time he stayed in my backyard, and at night, because it's dark, he said he can't see it. He hit it, and the next morning I asked him to...
What date?
I don't have the date.
Well, why did you wait so long?
Because he's homeless.
Because
I don't know where he is.
No, it's because she countered her suit after she received mine. Of course.
Probably true.
I went over there the other day after I found out she was suing me and took pictures of the only place you could possibly hit her house. And the house doesn't show that, I mean, the house is just in bad shape altogether, but I don't know how you could say if I hit it or I didn't hit it. I mean, it's just in bad shape. Which is the fact that the house she lives in has got a roof blowing off, and the house next to it that's hers, I did the roof on, and I have not been paid for that.
What?
This is an estimate.
Madam, I can't tell what happened with this house. The house looks like it's in deplorable condition.
The whole property is.
That's why he
Listen
hit.
to me. I'm speaking. I don't need you to help me.
You're right.
House is in deplorable condition. I can't tell what he hit and what he didn't. He just said he didn't hit your house. You're not responsible for his dog. He's not responsible for your house.
You know what?
Mario
Check
moved
this
out?
Yeah, it's
Mario
gone.
moved out?
Gone.
Good. Goodbye. Have a happy life.
And I knew you'd do that. That's all right, though. That's all right.
No excuse. Step out, please.
You're exactly what I thought you'd be. Come on, Hood. Let's go. That's why I should never come to this court. I knew she'd do that. All I know is he wasn't there when I came back from Oregon, and nobody told me nothing.
He lied in the court. He been staying there for at least 4 or 5 months.
I came in, I asked Mario. He just pointed and said, go talk to Miss Chan. He didn't want to tell me a word.
I tell him, that's your responsibility. Don't put me on.
I went and talked to her. She goes, I don't know nothing. I know nothing.
I don't want to help nobody no more. Once enough. And they put me on the court? No.
18-year-old student Melissa Hopper and her mother, Tammy Dameron, are suing Melissa's grandmother-in-law, cook Annette Carnes, for the value of a '92 Geo Storm. Melissa says she traded in the vehicle so Annette's grandson could buy a car.
Yeah, this is case number 376 on the calendar in the matter of Hopper Dameron versus Carnes. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Who's Miss Hopper?
Hi.
Okay. And who are you?
I'm Melissa's mother. I'm Tammy Dameron.
Why don't you have a seat, Miss Dameron? How old are you?
Okay. 18.
Okay, why don't you have a seat for a minute? I don't know if we're going to need you. Is this your former husband?
Yes.
Or soon-to-be former husband?
Yes.
But you are still legally married?
Yes.
How long have you been married?
1 year on September 27th.
And you have a child who is how old?
Almost 3 months.
And Miss Carnes is his grandmother?
Yes.
Got it?
Got it.
From what I gather, a couple of years ago, you and your then boyfriend needed a car. You had an old car, and you decided to get a new one.
Right.
You didn't have good enough credit to buy a new one, so you asked Miss Carnes if she would buy the car in her name. You would make all the payments on the car, you and your husband.
Correct.
And you were going to trade in your old car as the down payment. They gave you a $2,000 credit.
Correct.
Is that right? And Grandma said she would do that, even though she risked her own credit if you didn't make the payments. But you did, in fact, you and your husband made the payments. Were you working during that year?
Yes, I did. Actually, I had a job being a nanny.
Did he work regularly?
No.
What did he do?
I have no idea. Well, he did actually.
What do you mean you have no idea? You lived with him.
He had a DJ job on the side. That's pretty much what he did on the weekends and sometimes during the week. And when he wasn't doing that, he was at home.
Who was taking care of the baby?
He wasn't born at the time.
So you were pregnant? Were you working while you were pregnant?
Yes.
Well, then an incident occurred with your husband.
Correct.
He assaulted you.
Yes.
That case is currently pending, is that
Yes.
right? Is that right, sir?
Yes.
So we're not going to get into that because that case has not gone to trial yet. So you separated. He took the car. You want your $2,000 back.
Correct.
That's what the case is about. Right?
Yes.
What kind of car did you trade in?
92 Geostorm.
And in what month and year did you trade it in?
August of 2003.
Well, explain to me why you think you are entitled to $2,000 back from Miss Carnes.
Basically, we had the arrangement that if we paid the payments that I would be able to drive the car, and we always made the payments. Whenever he wasn't working, I did pay the payments too.
And you used the car?
I honestly didn't have the car that much. He would take me to work.
Well, we don't balance that out. You had it sometimes, he had it sometimes. My question to you is, look, this is what she has.
Okay.
She doesn't have the car.
Right.
He has the car.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Stand up so I don't have to point. I'd like to look at you over here. She doesn't have the car. She's a good Samaritan.
Right.
He has the car.
Right.
All she does is have the aggravation. She has the loan. And she has the problem if he doesn't pay.
Right.
But she doesn't get anything out of this car.
Right.
So why do you think that she should give you $2,000?
Honestly, Judge, I think that I'm entitled to $2,000 because it is not fair that I have to raise my son by myself with no car, nothing. Without.
That's not her problem. You want to say something? You could say something. I mean, that may be his problem, but that's not his grandmother's problem. Why should she go into her pocket and take out $2,000 and give it to you?
Because she's condoning what he did.
So what? That's not a legal response. What?
What I have to say, Judge Judy, is the car was mine. Melissa had transportation. She got together with this guy. The mistake in the matter was that we didn't get anything in writing. I didn't want them to use, Melissa had transportation. She worked, she goes to school. He didn't work. The fact of the matter is, now, whenever he wasn't working and the payments had to be made, it came from Melissa or from...
Ms. Damron, excuse me. You're not following me.
Okay.
Why should Miss Carnes, under what theory is it fair for her to go into her pocket? She doesn't have a car.
Because she didn't want to...
Just a second. She doesn't have a car. He's not a party to this action. Why should she go into her pocket and take out $2,000 and give it to your daughter?
I didn't want that car to be used as a down payment, but she
did it anyway.
Right. And
you're not
exactly. Yeah,
she
said that. She said that she would put the car in her name and not put their name on the title whatsoever.
Your daughter asked her to do that.
Yeah, and I was there at that time.
Just a minute. If they needed a better car, did they ask you to use your credit?
They did.
And you said no?
Yes.
Okay. Because you didn't want to have that responsibility. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so far, nobody has given me a logical reason why I should have Miss Carnes go into her pocket and take out $2,000 and give it to your daughter.
The reason I see is the fact that she should get the money from her grandson. She should get the money from her grandson because Melissa has the brand new baby. I have to take off work. Melissa had transportation. Now she has no transportation.
Right.
And he pays no child support.
That's not her problem.
Right. It's not her problem, but I'm saying that she should get the money from
problem. So what you're telling me is she should have more control over her grandson to get him to pay up and be responsible.
Well, basically.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, I am, because
that's ridiculous.
She had
because
the money.
That's not what you do in a court.
Right.
Why don't you help her? If you have a job and you are regularly employed, buy a car. If she works, then you say to her, Melissa, dear, you're going to have to make payments on this car so then you'll have transportation. You're her mother. Instead, what you did was you relied on his grandmother to do that because you didn't want to do it. His grandmother is not responsible to give her $2,000. Maybe her soon-to-be ex-husband might be responsible for providing her with some sort of transportation because he now has the transportation. But that's not up to me. That's up to the judge who's handling their divorce. Certainly, Ms. Carnes is not responsible for $2,000 that your daughter would like to buy a new car. Case is dismissed, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's just mad I won't be with her, and that's what she's causing all this drama over.
Basically, I was tired of being beat up and cheated on.
I've worked since I was 17. I've supported her. She's lived with me since she was 16.
No, he never works, and his grandmother basically bails him out of jail every time he beats my daughter up.
I want her out of my life. I would just want to be able to see my kid and live my life.
Basically, I don't think he's going to have anything to do with my son, considering I don't want him beating up my son, too.
26-year-old student Mary Sandy Saturday is suing 25-year-old store owner Taquana Colvin for lost wages due to a false arrest. Taquana claims Sandy assaulted her, and she's countersuing for lost wages and emotional distress.
This is case number 83 on the calendar in the matter of Saturday versus Colvin. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Who's this?
This is my mother.
Who's this?
This is my mom.
Do you work?
I just graduated college.
And you?
I have my own business.
What kind of business?
It's a secondhand store that sells home interior and clothing.
Okay. How long have you been in that business?
Just 4 months.
And what kind of work does your mother do?
My mother's retired.
From what?
The electric company.
You think your mother ever had a fist fight with anybody?
Yes, I do.
You do? You think your mother ever had a fist fight with anybody?
She has not.
Right?
Right, it's not.
Ridiculous, right?
Yes, it is.
Did you ever have a fist fight with anybody?
Yes, I have.
Really?
Yes.
How many times?
One time. Someone came to my house to fight me.
How long ago?
25 years ago.
Okay. One time. I don't understand girls having fights.
My mother had a fist fight.
Sorry, Bert, I don't care. Yeah, I'm sure your mother's a nice lady. I don't understand.
Is.
I don't understand ladies having fists. I don't understand men having fist fights, but they're men, so you sort of understand it. But I don't understand women.
Yes, having fights.
Nurturers. Caregivers.
Yes.
Pulling hair, scratching eyes, using their... I don't understand that. You agree?
Yes, I agree.
So, it is your claim that the defendant had you falsely arrested twice for various acts, and the second time was for violating a protective order that she had against you. The defendant has a cross-complaint. The defendant's cross-complaint is that you assaulted her and caused her to lose a contact lens, so you both want lots of money from the other for emotional distress and this loss of your freedom and the filing of false charges against you. Those charges were subsequently dismissed after a trial.
Yes.
Okay. How do you know each other?
I met Taquana through a mutual friend.
What started the problem between the two of you?
Taquana is just a bad person. I was around her only for about 2 months, and the type of person she is just, she's a bad person. She does bad things. She's very argumentative.
So you didn't like her?
Yeah, and I decided I didn't want to be around her. And while she was still friends with the friend that we met through, I even told Taquana, well, since you're around her and I'm around her, we're going to get along, just like that. And the last time I had seen Taquana was probably the beginning of June of 2003, and didn't see her again to September 9th, September 10th at a nightclub. And I seen her with her cousin. I went up to her cousin, because Taquana and her cousin, they They just started being back friends.
Listen to me.
Okay.
I have other cases to do.
Okay,
today. Let's get to it.
Okay, well, I said something to Taquana's cousin, and evidently her cousin said something to her.
So you said something negative
I
about
really didn't say. I'll tell you what I said. When I was seeing her cousin, I went to her, I gave her a hug, and I told her, I was like, if you need a friend to hang around, I will hang around you. You do not have to hang with Taquana. Taquana is a bad person.
So you said negative things about her?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. On September 10th, the night that I seen her, Taquana called like 3:40 in the morning, left me this crazy, terrible message telling me that she's going to handle me, she's going to come to my house, she's going to see me, this and that, and she's going to call me early in the morning. At 8:40 in the morning, she also called me and told me that she's going to come over to my house and handle me. And I have the recording right here if you would like to hear it. Brace yourself.
Saved message.
Okay, just stop. Stop the tape. Make it lower, Bird, so that, because it probably is distorting the sound, so that I can hear it. I got the gist of it. Why would you call her and leave that kind of a message?
Because Sandy had been slandering my name to relatives as well as...
what had she been saying about you that you heard?
She had been saying that I give oral sex, I will steal your man, I will steal your money, I'm a bad person, just all types of things about my character that were false.
So?
So, I was...
You think that a message like that says that you're a good person?
No, it doesn't.
You think it says that you are a genteel person?
I think that that type of message would just lead somebody to believe that I was highly upset.
Well, going to get her, because that's what you said.
Yes,
in the message. That's what you said in the
I didn't
message.
say that I was going to get her.
Well, pretty much.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Sandy Saturday says Taquana Colvin had her falsely arrested for assault. Taquana claims Sandy beat her up and threatened her life.
She called you and she left a nasty message. What's next?
Okay, when she filed a false charge against me for, she said I was stalking her. This was like on March 10th.
Let me see what she filed against you. Did she assault you in September of 2003?
Yes.
How?
Sandy called me back at my cousin's house, and we talked, and she stated at that time that she didn't want to fight me, and she was tired of arguing with me. And so at that time I asked Sandy, what will it take for you to stop?
That is the whole
No. Listen to me.
Okay.
Say nothing.
Okay.
Go ahead.
What will it take for you to stop slandering my name and talking about me constantly? And I suggested, if I give you back your $50 for the 50-cent concert ticket, would that settle the dispute?
Why were you going to give her back the $50? Had she given you $50 and you didn't give her the ticket?
Yes, she had, I gave her the ticket, actually. She had gave me, before we went on a summer vacation together, I purchased a set of 3 tickets. One was for Mary, one was for another person, and one was for myself. And we went on the summer vacation where Sandy and this other woman started being really mean to me. So by the time that I returned to Cincinnati, I had pretty much decided that I was going to end the relationship with Mary and her friend, and that they were not going to the concert with me. I had purchased them on my credit card, and what I wanted to do was just reimburse them for their money. And take other people, and Mary agreed.
That was September
10th. So I went over to her house.
What time?
Almost noon.
Okay.
When I stepped up on the curb, Mary appeared at the door. She ran out of her house and ran down the steps, and she approached me. She asked me, what the do you have to say now? And I said, I don't have anything to say to you. I'm coming over here, and before I could finish my sentence, she punched me in the forehead.
And then what happened?
And she continued punching me. She started choking me. I was pushing Mary back by her shoulders, constantly asking her to stop fighting me. She was choking me, said that I'm going to choke the hell out of you. I'm going to kill you. Basically, I punched Sandy back a few times or so, trying to keep her off me. I turned and I ran across the street, and she chased me across the street and grabbed me by the back of my hair. It was just basically hitting on me.
Fight.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me your interpretation of the events of September 10th.
I never called Taquana. I never spoke with Taquana. I haven't had a conversation with Taquana since probably the end of May. About around 12 o'clock or whatever, ritual, I go to the gym around that time. I come out my house, and Taquana's sitting in her car waiting for me. And I walked down the stairs, and we just started fighting. But you didn't hear the rest of this tape. The tape is crazy, and it's just crazy. And the police, I did call the police because I live on a cul-de-sac, and Taquana and some girl kept riding on the adjacent street from me. And I sat on my porch and waited for...
And you were arrested as a result of...
I was arrested 12 days later, the first time.
But for this incident?
For
this incident on September 10th?
Yeah, I was arrested on September 22nd.
Can I see the paperwork you have, please?
Okay. This is for the assault. This is the dismissal for the TPO, and this is the acquit for the valet and the protection order.
Yeah, well, it says on September 18th. Not September 10th. It says it's September 18th. Was there another argument on September 18th?
No.
No. Obviously,
they got this all wrong.
She had did this to other people in 2003 too. So since she done did it to so many people, they probably got mixed up.
Well, maybe I'll ask that question. Maybe it will be in this other report. Have you been cited for any other assault in 2003?
No, ma'am.
Yes, you have. Right here.
You sure? Before I look at any other document, Ms. Colvin.
I totally forgot about that, but I didn't have to go to court on it.
Can I see it, please? That's not what I asked you.
They just drove us to the police. Yes, ma'am.
And this fight ended in 2000.
Yes, you certainly have. How many times have you been cited for assault?
I think just 2 leading up to that situation.
It's fair to say that you have a problem with your temper.
I don't have a problem with my temper.
How many times have you been taken into custody for assault?
None.
With the exception of this time?
Yeah, with the exception of that one. Can I say something? Including myself, 2 other people filed protection orders against Taquana in 2003.
And they were
dismissed. Can I see them, please?
All for the same thing.
Can I see them, please?
No, that's not true.
Can I
speak,
take a look?
Judge?
What?
Can I speak?
Sure.
Okay. Ma'am, Sandy is saying that Taquana does all this and all that. This has been a big ongoing thing with our cousin.
Listen to me. I have a
Yes.
who sought a protective order against you.
An ex-boyfriend.
I don't care, but he sought a protective order.
Okay.
I have a...
Yes, and they were both dismissed.
They were both dismissed.
Listen to me. You have a temper. I just heard it.
Okay.
Okay, so I have one incident here that caused this protective order. It was ultimately dismissed.
Yes.
Okay, now let's get to the second one. The second cause of action that you have is that these 2 ladies came to your place of business and you told your boss that there was a protective order because there was a temporary protective order in place. He asked you to leave. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you did leave.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you filed a violation of the temporary protective order.
Yes, ma'am. Can I tell you what happened?
Sure.
When we
No. I want her to tell me what happened.
I left the bar manager.
How many bars are there in Cincinnati?
Many.
So how do you think it came about that you chose the one where she was employed to go into with your mother?
It's not that I chose the one that she was employed at. I live on that street. My business is on that street, and I attend that bar several times a week. Mary chose to get a job at that bar knowing that I had already been living on that street, had already been owning a business on that street. She got the job. Did she have proof of how long she had been working at that bar?
Just a second. Don't ask me. You're showing your temper, honey.
Okay.
I'm going to just let you go. You're going to bury yourself.
Damn.
On what basis do you claim that she violated the protective order?
Before the bar manager came over to ask me if I had a restraining order against her or whatever, I agreed. I told him, yes, I did have a temporary restraining order against her. He said, okay, that's fine. When you finish with your drink, would you please leave? I said, sure, I will leave when I'm finished with my drink.
Why didn't you just leave?
Because I was in the middle of my drinks as well. I was with my
when you
relatives.
file a protective order against somebody, that
I was
means...
there first, Your Honor.
Be quiet. Be quiet. When you file a protective order against someone, Ms. Colvin, it means that you're afraid of them, right?
Supposedly, yes.
What do you mean, supposedly, yes?
That you're supposed to be afraid of this person. Yes.
Right.
But I was with my...
Sit down. So I would assume that when you filed, since you say you're a normal person,
right,
that when you filed a protective order against her, you filed it because you were afraid of her.
Right.
Well, then, I wouldn't wait till I finished my drink, even though I was there first. I would say to my mother, I don't want there to be any trouble. Let's go. You, on the other hand, decided to stay because you were there first. And your store is on that street, and you had a right to be. Well, that's what you just told me. You said, I was there first.
I was there first, but I was going to leave like the bar manager asked me when I finished my drink.
He shouldn't have to ask you.
Okay.
Don't you understand what I just said? He shouldn't have to ask you,
because
madam.
I'm supposed to be afraid, right?
Let me tell you something. I believe that she filed these protective orders against you, and I believe she filed them maliciously. And I believe she knew about filing protective orders because she had already been served with a few herself in her lifetime, so she knew exactly what kind of trouble you could get into. Now, is the assault that you are claiming the assault when you went over to give her back her $50? That's your counterclaim, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, that's baloney. Because that girl whose foul, fresh mouth left 2 messages on that machine did not go over to make peace the next day. No way. So your counterclaim is dismissed.
Yes,
and I believe that she did file these cases against you maliciously. You were ultimately fired from your job. You're seeking $3,000 in damages. Now, my question to you is, do you believe that you acted appropriately in all of your dealings with the defendant?
Very appropriately.
Okay. Put your hand down. Better teach your daughter a little self-control. She needs it. Tell me about your job. When did you lose your job?
Let me tell you what they did. When they talking about they was going to just leave after the drink, no, they put up a fight to stay in the bar. They put up a fight. And
what did they say?
They was talking to the manager, talking about it's a public place. They have the right to come and drink this and this and that. And I get to work at 6 o'clock. About 7:15, they were still in there. And then 3 police officers came to my job, got me from out the bar, and arrested me. Taquana told them I threatened to kill her.
You mean at the bar?
At the bar. And then a few days later, or the next day, her and her mother, she get it from her mother. Her and her mother requested a meeting with the bar manager and the owner to get me fired.
Is that when you were fired 3 days later?
Yes.
But you were removed from the bar by the police?
I was physically removed and arrested.
What?
She was removed from the bar because she went back by the register and turned around and faced me and my party and did this, and at the same time said that you were dead.
You shouldn't have been there.
Yes, ma'am.
You were annoying her. Okay. You and your mother and whoever else you were with. You had no right to be there. Saturday is seeking compensation for having her falsely arrested and for losing her job in the amount of $3,000. I'm awarding her $3,000.
Thank you.
You better learn to watch yourself. Your counterclaim's dismissed.
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000.
Thank you.
That's all.
Everything that girl said was a lie. Everything. Her life is a lie.
We don't want Mary to call our house or even be, talking about her in the street. You know, she won the money. That's all she wants. She needs to let it go.
This should be the end of it.
Her mother is the devil. She's the devil advocate. I'm grown. I didn't bring my mother into this. She brought my mother into this because she made false charges against my mother, too.
She knew that I was coming over there like we agreed on the telephone, and I was approaching the building to give her the money.
Taquana got what she deserved. She has done this to other people, and I'm the only one who took it this far, but she got what she deserved.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Spring versus Bell. Step forward, please.
24-year-old graduate student Natalie Spring is suing her former friend, Baker Marquetta Tammy Bell, for medical bills from a dog bite. Tammy says the attack was Natalie's fault.
Miss Spring, Miss Bell's dog bit you.
Yes.
And you want to be compensated.
That's right, Your Honor.
Not only for the dog bite, but also for clothing that was ripped, etc.
Yes.
Miss Bell does not deny that her dog bit you. She said it's your fault.
Yes, Your Honor.
You sure you want to go with that defense, Miss Bell, because you look like a woman that doesn't like to get beaten up?
No, ma'am.
Okay, but that's your defense, that it's
Yes,
her
ma'am.
fault. Okay. Where did this happen, Miss Spring?
This happened at Miss Bell's house.
What were you doing at Miss Bell's house?
I had gone over. I had arranged with Tammy before to bake some cakes for a party that I was throwing, and so I went over to her house to pick up the cakes. And I had parked my car on the street, walked up to the house. The dog Lance was sitting there, and I said, "Hey, Lance." Lance
the dog
ran
was
off.
Sitting where?
Sitting on the front porch, right by her front door.
Had you gone to her house before?
I had. I'd gone and played spades there with some friends before.
And when you went there, the dog was there?
Yes. Usually the dog would be in another room or on the back porch.
This time the dog was chained on the front porch?
Yes.
And you had made arrangements to pick up your cakes?
Right. I had told Tammy that I was going to be over there sometime between 4 and 6 on Friday to pick them up because I
What
had
time
to take
did you
them to
get
the
there?
party. I believe it was between 4 and 4:30.
And tell me where the dog bit you.
The dog bit me 3 times on my legs and then left a deep scratch on my thigh.
What kind of a dog is this?
According to the animal control report, it is a lab corgi mix.
Can I see
Yes.
the report?
I don't know anything about dogs, really.
I also have a picture of my dog, Your Honor.
I'd like to see a picture, please.
He's the beige one right there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This happened on the
21st of March.
1st of March, and your dog was impounded on the 24th?
Yes, Your Honor. They put him in dog jail.
In dog jail?
Dog jail, yes, Your Honor.
For how long?
He was in dog jail for 10 days. I had to pay $98 to get him out. In the state of North Carolina, you have to, if a dog bites someone, even if it's on your own property, the dog is leashed up, you have to put him in quarantine for 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
But it's partly her fault, Your Honor, because she's been in
Now
my
you're going
house.
to tell me how it's her fault.
Because she's been in my house before, and she's been there a couple of times. Lance on the front porch, he's barking. She has to toot the horn. I had to go get Lance and put him on the back porch. But this time, Your Honor, I heard the dog barking, but I was in the restroom. When I came outside, she was standing there, and she said Lance had bitten her. I said, well, Natalie, why did you keep approaching a dog that's barking? Because the dog, he hasn't bitten anyone before, but he does bark at people. He has an aggressive nature.
Miss Bell, you said a few things that are interesting. So we're going to go back to you and your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you bake cakes for a living?
Part-time, yes, ma'am.
So when Miss Spring was coming to your home to pick up the cakes, she was a customer?
Yes, Your Honor. She came early, as she stated.
No, she told you she was coming between 4 and 6. And
Yes,
she
Your
got
Honor.
there between 4 and 4:30, which is between 4 and 6.
And she got there about 3:30 to be exact. She got there real early.
Okay. So you have a dog that you say has an aggressive nature.
Yes, Your
That's
Honor.
what you said. You do have a back porch.
Yes, Your Honor.
And the dog, you say, is usually on the back porch because of the dog's aggressive nature when you have people coming over.
Yes, I put him on the back porch, yes.
And it would have been the smart thing to do, knowing that Miss Spring was coming over, to put the dog on the back porch, knowing the dog has an aggressive nature, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
You chose not to do that. Do you think that Miss Spring is dumb enough to walk into a situation where she knows she's going to be bitten by a large dog?
No, he's not large. He's a short dog. He's about this tall and that long. He's very
Does the
short
dog weigh more than 30 pounds?
He's right at 45 pounds.
Well, that's more than 30.
Yes, Your Honor.
So this is a large enough dog to cause damage. I mean,
Yes.
a dog that's 45 pounds can kill a child.
Yes, Your Honor.
What would happen if a child who's 5 years old that weighs 30 pounds comes up to your front porch to pet the dog? And the dog starts barking, and the child doesn't stop, and your dog kills that child. Do you think that you're responsible, or the 5-year-old is responsible?
That's a tough question.
It's not a tough question at all, madam. If you know that you have a dog that has an aggressive nature, it is your responsibility to ensure that that dog is not in a position to hurt anybody. And if you invite people to come to your home, and what the person has to do is to get by an aggressive animal, it's your responsibility
Well, Your Honor, she's been there before, as I understand. She has tooted the horn and said, Tammy, put the dog up, and that's what I've done.
Your Honor,
this time, she didn't do that. I don't know why she's been in my house. It's not like she has not
so
been
you
in
think
my
she
house.
let me ask you this question. You think she wanted the dog to bite her so that she could sue you? Is that what you think?
I'm not sure what she was thinking on that day.
Well, what were you thinking of when you left your aggressive dog chained on the front porch when you were expecting a customer?
She came 30 minutes early.
So she came 30 minutes early. That's a possibility.
Your Honor, I was planning to put the dog up at 4 o'clock.
You should have put the dog up at 3:30. Because if you were afraid that your dog is too aggressive to be on the front porch at 4 o'clock, you should have gotten the dog off the front porch, period. And I don't see why you keep an aggressive dog anyway.
Because he's a good dog. The neighborhood is not so nice, and so you need to be aware if someone's going to approach you and try to harm you. That's the first time he's ever been to anybody.
Well, it's going to be an expensive time, madam. Do you have the bills for your medical care?
I have the receipt from the prescription, the visit to urgent care, and then also the ACE bandages that I had to get.
Can I see them, please? Do you have any scars left?
Yes, ma'am. I have 2
Can I
scars.
see?
Yeah. Do I just step up? I have one right there on my knee, and then one right there.
So the dog went after both legs?
Yes. Yes. There was another bite on my right leg, but it didn't leave a scar.
What happened after the dog bit you?
After the dog bit me, I was screaming. And where Tammy said that I usually honk the horn, I'd never honked the horn when I'd gone to Tammy's house. And
That's not true, Your
the
Honor.
dog was sitting on the front porch. The dog wasn't barking. If Lance had been barking, I wouldn't have walked up to Lance. I said, "Hey, Lance," and he rushed at me and bit me. So I started screaming, yelling for Tammy, yelling for her roommate, and they came out. And I had gotten away from the dog at this point, and he was pulling on his chain really tight, like he was going to get it loose again. Tammy came out, took him inside. I'm bleeding on her driveway, and tell her, like, we need to do something because the bites weren't stopping bleeding.
What happened next?
Tammy drove my car and took me over to the urgent care about 2 or 3 miles away and sat with me at the urgent care. And then after I was seen and they dressed the wounds, she took me back over to her house. And in the car, she said, send me the bill for your pants that he ripped, for the medicine, all that. And then she showed me a place on her arm and said her uncle's dog had bitten her before. And so she knew how bad it was and how much it was going to hurt and all of that. So
she did the appropriate thing.
Yes, then she did.
Well, what made her change her mind? Did she tell you?
No, I called Tammy after I got the submission from my insurance company, and I couldn't get a hold of her on the phone. So I sent her an email. She didn't respond to my email. So then I sent her a certified letter, and she didn't respond to the certified letter either.
How come you didn't respond?
Yes, Your Honor, I did. I told Natalie that they had quarantined my dog, and I had to pay $98. So therefore, I think the $98 should be applied to her medical bill. Because that was the cost that, that was unfair because the dog has all his shots. He was leashed to his own yard. I didn't think he would bite anybody, but he did. And, it was an unfortunate accident.
Well, let me ask you this question. You said you lived in a neighborhood that wasn't so good and you needed a dog there for your protection. What did you think that your dog was going to do if somebody tried to break into your house? You thought he was going to jump up and kiss him on the lips? What did you think your dog was supposed to do? And you kept your dog on the back porch because your dog was aggressive. What did you think your dog was going to do?
I only put the dog on the back porch when people came over. It was a very unfortunate accident, Your Honor.
It wasn't an accident. It wasn't an accident. It was unfortunate, that's true. But the only one that could have avoided the unfortunate circumstance is you. If you have an aggressive dog, you invite people to your home. You have to ensure that the dog's not in a position to hurt them. You invited her to your home.
Yeah.
She came to pick up merchandise that you had prepared for her. You should have ensured that your aggressive dog was not in a position where he could have hurt her. He hurt her, you're responsible. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $900. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She knows I have an aggressive dog, and I have to put the dog on the back porch when she comes over, so it's not like the first time she's been there.
I knew that the dog barked, but I didn't know that the dog was going to attack me, bite me 4 times, and leave me bleeding on her driveway.
I was in shock because that's the first time I ever bit somebody. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe you actually bit someone.
I have 2 scars on my legs now from this dog bite.
No hard feelings. I love everybody.
Dogs are evil. Get a cat.
19-year-old Melinda Krieger says former live-in boyfriend Ashley Brittingham owes for several unpaid loans. Melinda says when she received a large check from Social Security, Ashley turned into a...
Jennifer Anderton is suing her former friend, James Sorensen, for personal training and a fraudulent investment.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2125, Anderton versus Sorensen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Anderton, your case against the defendant is twofold. First, you claim a loan to him in the amount of $10,000. And while he doesn't deny that you gave him $10,000, it is his defense that this was not a loan, but an investment in a project that went south. It went south because somebody conned him, and thus you were conned as well. Somebody took off with the money. The second part of your lawsuit is that Mr. Sorensen is a trainer of some sort, a personal trainer, fitness trainer, and you retained him to put you on some sort of a regimen of both diet and exercise. And you paid him in advance. He wasn't forthcoming with all of the training sessions he was supposed to give you, became unavailable. You want a refund of some of that money. So the first thing I'm going to deal with in your lawsuit is the $10,000 exchange of money. If I find that that, in fact, was a loan or was fraudulently entered into as a result of being duped and being a dope, then I'm going to give you back the money. Then I don't have to get to the training because that's the limit of my jurisdiction. Do you understand?
I understand.
Okay, great. How did you meet him?
I met him on a dating site, actually.
When?
Early June 2021.
Did you date?
We befriended each other. And after our first meeting, that is when I had just come off of a ventilator of 10 days. I was a nurse, contracted COVID. He actually came to my home and said, I could really help you get back to where you were. I needed rehab.
Okay, so after the first meeting, you were not dating?
No.
Is that right, sir?
That's correct.
And that was in June of 2021?
Yes.
When did you, Mr. Sorensen, tell Ms. Anderton about this investment opportunity?
It was about a month into...
So 4 weeks later?
Right.
4 weeks later, you became close enough to discuss with her a business opportunity?
Yes.
And did you discuss this business opportunity with her in her home or over the phone?
In her home.
So I want you to tell me your version of exactly what you told her.
So I had a friend come to me and...
You had a friend whose name is?
His name's Scott.
Scott what?
I can't remember his last name.
I don't believe you.
Okay.
If it's true, then it didn't happen. If it's true that you can't remember his last name, it's because he doesn't exist.
Oh, he does exist.
Oh, sir, you didn't give all that money to somebody whose last name you don't know. I want you to understand that. Then you're looking at me and saying I must have stupid written on my forehead. You don't look like a stupid man.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, you look like it could be a cunning man, but you don't look like a stupid man. So if Scott doesn't have a last name, he didn't exist. I want you to tell me that's in my brain. In my brain is if you can't come up with a first and last name of somebody that you gave thousands of dollars to, he didn't exist.
Okay, in your mind.
Keep going.
I'm not going to keep going and dig any holes. I'm just telling you what the facts are.
No, those aren't facts, sir. That's a fantasy. You know, you're not mentally challenged in any way, are you?
No.
I want to tell you, if I told my 9-year-old grandchild who asked me for $100 because she wanted to invest it with a friend, I would say, what's the friend's name? I don't know. So I'm not giving you $100 to invest with somebody whose name you don't know, because I'm absolutely positive that if you said that to her, she would have said, well, what's this person's name? I want you to tell me now, Mr. Sorensen, what was the investment?
It was for Happy Pills.
It was for what?
Happy Pills.
Don't look at me.
Happy? Did you say Happy Pills?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me about it. Tell me what you told her. You want to invest in Happy Pills.
Yes.
What she'd say to you? She'd say to you, I'm a nurse, you know, so I'm an educated person. What's wrong with you? Okay, keep going. Keep going. I want to invest in Happy Pills.
Right.
Your friend Scott.
It was a friend of a friend. His name was Scott. Okay, and he introduced me to him and said that, hey, he went.
No, you mean Scott introduced you to somebody else?
No, my friend introduced me to Scott. I didn't know his last name, but we knew that he was in the industry.
Okay, so your friend introduced you to Scott.
Yes.
What's your friend's name?
His name is John. I promise.
Where does he live?
He lives in Salt Lake.
What's his telephone number?
I have no idea what his telephone number is.
Just a second, get out your phone and tell me what your friend's telephone number is. Everybody has their friend's number in their phone.
I don't know what his telephone number is.
Then you see why I don't believe you, sir? Do you understand why I'm having a problem with your story?
It's okay.
Do you understand why I'm having? So a friend whose number you don't have in your phone wanted to introduce you to somebody whose name you don't know to invest in Happy Pills. And this is what you told her?
No, I'm asking you a question. Is this what you told her? I have a friend.
This is what I told her.
John, I have a friend, John, who knows a guy, Scott, who has this company that's going to make happy pills. I just want to know if that's what you're trying to tell me that you told this woman.
I am. It's okay. I don't know why she would make up that story that my parents gave me.
No. She's not making up the story. You're making up the story.
Okay.
And if I'm wrong about this, I actually don't feel badly, sir, because then you're the dope that got duped.
And later today.
You devalued her car while you had it.
Yeah, okay.
You used the car for 2.5 years that was running. It stopped running because the engine was blown.
Yes.
And then you stopped making the payments on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Last year's car wash raised $6,000. Let's do this.
Whoa.
That's bonkers! How close can we get to the sign?
This is it. No, wait. They take this seriously. I told you!
Hey, Crystal, what do we say if somebody doesn't want to buy?
Buy my brownies or I'll kill you.
Don't say that, Crystal.
Jennifer Anderton claims her former friend, James Sorensen, owes her for a fake $10,000 investment.
Okay, keep going.
You know what happy pills are?
I assume that they make you happy.
Right. Yeah, they are. It's Molly.
I assume that they make you happy.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. And so he went around to festivals and he sold Molly there.
He sold what?
Molly.
Molly's.
MDMA. It's an illegal drug.
Oh, okay. So you told her you wanted her to make an investment with you with a big return on your money.
We talked about this for a long time.
Who did?
Me and...
You couldn't have talked about it for a long time, sir. You only knew her 4 weeks.
Okay.
You only knew her 4 weeks. Tell me about this $10,000. Did you take it out of a savings account? Do you have that from the bank?
Yeah.
I'd like to take a look at it. You want to tell me, Miss Anderton, the circumstances surrounding you transferring $10,000 to him?
He approached me saying that he needed a hard money loan for his business. He had an e-commerce business with supplements. His father and mother had given him the loans in the past, for the past 5 years, and they've gotten a good return. It was a for sure deal. He goes around, and this is their festival project time. They make a lot of money doing this.
What does he do?
For supplements.
So he sells supplements?
Yes.
And it was his business? Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes. Did he ever mention a guy, Scott, to you?
No.
It was his business?
Yes.
And he said that his parents had helped him out in the past, had invested with him in the past. So now I understand a little bit better. I see the withdrawal for $10,000. So tell me why he needed a hard money loan.
To buy the product to take to these festivals and...
Sell them.
Sell them, yes.
Okay.
So he needed it for product.
And when did he tell you that he was going to return this money?
Within a week or two. That it was a week or two of festivals. This was the busy season. He does this every year, and this is a for sure return. And if I did this much amount of money, $5,000, this is how much I'd get back. If I did $10,000, it would be a $15,000 return for me. And I'm like, wow, I could pay off my student loans. I could, yes, do a lot with that.
Okay, so to synthesize what you told me, he told you that this was an investment in his company.
A loan.
A loan, excuse me. A loan for his company for products so that he could go out, sell them for the next several weeks,
Correct.
And you would get a return of 15% on your money.
50%. So a 10...
50? 50? Sounds too good to be true.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with the company.
The Venmo transfer of $2,000 was to him in June?
June 16th of 21.
And a withdrawal of $8,000.
Same day.
Okay. Now, where did you put that money, sir?
I gave it to Scott.
Okay. Okay. I want to tell you, Mr. Sorensen, you have parents who gave you money?
They have in the past, not as you would say.
You have parents that gave you money?
They did not ever give me money for my business, ever.
What did they give you money for?
Christmas? They never financed for me for anything in my life. Okay. Nothing.
Oh, then you lied about
I don't know why she would make up that story that my parents gave me.
No. She's not making up the story. You're making up the story.
Okay.
And if I'm wrong about this, I actually don't feel badly, sir, because then you're the dope that got duped.
Oh, absolutely. I know.
Then,
I'm the dope
just a
that got
second,
duped.
that if you gave money to John, to Scott, then you're the dope that got duped because they were your friends. That's all I have to tell you.
I understand.
That's all. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $10,000. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I think it was fair.
I think that was a fair judgment.
We both understood what we were getting into.
No, not until after like 3 or 4 months, and I think he brought that up in fear of me going to the police.
Time to part ways, and definitely learning curves on both ends.
Don't do silly things. It was definitely a learning curve.
I'm glad that things happened the way they did.
Something I'll never do again. I'd be a little more careful with your money and your investments, and don't trust everybody. I'm too trusting.
I just find it very funny that his entire business venture, was selling illegal drugs at festivals. That was the only plan. That was the whole venture. There was no...
That's really what he said.
Whether it was Scott, whether it was John, whether it was
But that
Joe.
was the business plan. That's Happy Pills. Thank you, by the way, for explaining what that was to me.
I didn't understand at first either, but when he said Molly at festivals, it's like, I'm pretty sure that's illegal. I'm pretty sure that's not a business.
Right.
So I'm glad she got her money back.
Me too. Me too. It was ridiculous.
There was a couple dopes getting duped in that.
Yeah.
Curtis Brown and Heather Palin are suing Heather's ex-husband, Scott Manis, for impound fees, harassment, and defamation.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2142, Brown, Palin versus Mannings.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Palin, this is your former husband.
That is correct, Your Honor.
How long were you married?
18 years.
And this is your daughter?
Correct.
Is this your only child?
With Mr. Manis, it is.
Yes.
Yes.
You have other children?
One other, yes.
How old?
32.
When did you and Mr. Manis separate?
I moved out of the family home in March of 2018.
And this is your boyfriend?
Correct.
I'm going to, in broad strokes, at least try to reconcile both the complaint and the answer in this case. I assume there was a time when your daughter, whose first name is? Trisha was living with you after the separation.
We had a mutual divorce decree of 50-50.
And was that honored?
Until September 4th of 2020, Mr. Manis had brought Trisha back to my home. And while we were out of the home, he had her pack her belongings.
No, okay. Let's stop there. Trisha, how old are you?
I'm 19, Your Honor.
Okay. And right subsequent to the separation and the divorce, until September of 2020, you shared custody.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
And then Trisha decided she would prefer to live with her father.
Correct.
For whatever reason. I don't have to go into it, because this doesn't really have to do with who she chose to live with or where she was living. It has to do with a car. Okay. So while she was living with Mr. Manis purchased a car.
Yes, ma'am.
For her use.
Correct.
In what month did you purchase a car for her use? Month and year?
Oh, boy. I believe that was probably February of 2019, I believe. 18 or 19.
Well, let's figure it out.
It was about 6 months prior to the case with her. So September 4th, we had the car. It would have been probably June or July of the same year.
So you bought her a car a couple of months before she decided to come and live with you?
Correct.
Okay, I got it.
She had just obtained her driver's license.
That's okay. I'm just trying to get a timetable. Right before she decided to come to live with you and not have 50-50 custody anymore, you purchased a car for her.
Correct.
And she drove that car in June or July, August?
Correct.
At your house?
At both houses.
She was allowed to go to take the car to their house?
Correct.
When she saw her mother?
Yes.
And then bring it back?
Correct.
There was a time when you took the car away from her. When was that?
Probably mid-August.
Mid-August of 2020?
Correct. Well, the threat was to take the car away because her grades were slipping. I didn't actually take the car away.
When did you take it away?
I actually never did take it away. Her mother and her mother's boyfriend decided to purchase her another car to eliminate my threat of taking away the car.
Well, I don't know if that's because, but they decided to
Correct.
purchase another car. And what did you do with the car that you had gotten for your daughter?
I sold that.
When did you sell it?
Probably a month or so after she got the other car.
And the threat was made to your daughter because you were concerned about how she was doing in school or how she was doing socially. What were the reasons?
Well, her grades were slipping. Okay. So I wanted her to concentrate more on her grades rather than...
Grades were slipping?
Correct, at school.
Did she give you any reason for that?
She was under a lot of pressure with the divorce.
So you purchased a car, Mr. Brown and Ms. Palin, with the understanding, according to your complaint, that the car would remain in your name. There would be payments made on the car, and once the car was paid, it would transfer to Tricia. Well, one thing led to another. Things sort of went south. And according to what I've read in these papers, you got sort of annoyed. And the car that you had purchased was in the physical custody of Tricia, who was living with her father, and Mr. Manis caused the car to be towed and impounded, which caused you substantial expense to get the car out of impound. And he did that maliciously.
Correct.
And you want him to pay those expenses because you did, in fact, get the car out of impound, subsequently sold it. How much were the impound fees?
$1,565.22, Your Honor.
Okay. And Mr. Manis, in defense of that, acknowledges that he towed the car, your car. He towed the car, which was at your house?
Your Honor, I had...
Where was the car?
The car at the time was at my house.
That's what I'm asking you. The car was at your house. You had it towed to impound. And you had it towed on what date, sir?
The car was impounded on September 4th.
Of what year?
2020, I believe.
And your defense for doing that...
Your Honor, he requested...
Just a second. Your defense for doing that is that you were merely following Mr. Brown's instructions.
And the police officers.
You were following Mr. Brown's instructions.
Correct.
Unless you have a police officer here.
I have several police reports, Your Honor.
About what?
This isn't just about the car. There's several years of harassment.
No, I'm dealing with the car.
I understand.
Right now, I'm dealing with the car.
So I have the several officers that came instructed us to get the car removed from the property.
Well, that may be, sir. You can have the car removed from the property and ask the police to have it deposited in front of their house.
I understand.
Yeah, you chose not to do that.
May I show you his request to have the car towed? He offered a reward for the car to be towed.
Just a second. I want you to tell me where I'm wrong so far. See, what we can all do to make her as unhappy as possible. So I really don't understand two people who probably, in their own way, love their child, but hate each other more than they love their child, which, to me, is absolutely bizarre.
Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. Sometimes we try to fit it all in. Sometimes we don't know what's in store. Sometimes we find what we're looking for. Sometimes we're rolling easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Captain.
Captain? You can't have her, and I'm taking her home!
It's every guy's worst nightmare getting accused like that.
Can you guess what every woman's worst nightmare is?
Well, at least I won't die alone.
Curtis Brown and Heather Palin claim Heather's ex-husband, Scott Mattis, owes for impound fees. Scott is countersuing Heather for filing a false CPS report.
Okay. You had the car towed to an impound. You did not call him or your ex-wife the day that you had the car towed to impound. It was some period of time later, if the fees for impound were $1,500. Your excuse for that is you were merely following his request. His request. That's what you wrote in your answer. Is that wrong?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, so now we know that you didn't notify them when you had the car towed.
Your Honor.
Because you could have had the car towed to the local police precinct and called them and said, come pick up the car. It can't be in front of my house anymore.
Your Honor,
He was actually at my house that night.
Just a second. I didn't ask you anything.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The police, when they came to our house, the car was present. They acknowledged the presence of the car.
You can't tell me what the police did, sir.
I have the reports, Your Honor.
I'd like to see, I will see the report. What I'm asking you is, there are two things. If you wanted the car out of your custody and you wanted to quietly and stop the friction, send it back to the people who purchased it, you could have done that. You chose not to do that.
Your Honor, the reason I chose not to do that is because of I have several false allegations from CPS, the police. I did not choose to have any contact
You
with
don't
them
have to have any contact with them, sir.
in order to...
You don't have to have any contact with them. Just like you paid a tow truck company to take the car to impound, you pay the tow truck company, you live in a private house or an apartment.
Private house.
You have the tow truck company drop the car off in front of their house. Now, after you had the car towed to an impound company, did you contact them in any way?
No, I didn't.
No.
I was instructed
Did you
not
ask
to
the
by the
police to contact them and tell them?
The police knew, yes.
I didn't ask you what the police knew. You can't tell me what the police knew. So you had the car towed on September the 4th. And when were you notified the car was in impound?
I received certified letter on September 26th, which was a Friday. It said to contact them Monday through Friday between 8 and 4.
Just a second. You received that on September 26th.
Yes.
Is that the first notice that you had that the car was impounded?
Correct. Yeah, that's...
Okay. So now the onus is upon you, Mr. Manis. I want you to prove your defense to me, and your defense was you were following Mr. Brown's instructions.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. That's all I want to see.
Here you go, Your Honor.
So this says $100 reward to anyone that impounds my car. Call a tow truck and tell them to contact me.
Yes, Your
You
Honor.
know this number.
Yes.
Yes. Well, did you do that?
The tow company sent them a letter on 9/10 of 2020, and I have the proof of that also, Your Honor.
Yeah, I would like to see what you're looking at. That's not on September 4th.
No.
That's not on September 4th.
9/10, they sent that out,
Okay.
the notice.
Let's see. Well, this says that attempts were made on 9/21, 9/26, and 10/5. That's what it looks like, attempts made.
That's when they had attempted to deliver, but they did not pick it up.
So they had no notice.
They had notice.
No,
did
they
not
had
pick
no
up
notice.
They
They
didn't pick
had
it up.
no notice.
If they would have gone to their post office box, they would have had notice.
If I had taller parents, I would have been 5'7". They had no notice. Okay, $1,565. That's what you owe them. It was a malicious act.
Your Honor, this isn't just about the car.
This is
There are
all.
horrendous
Listen to me.
False
This is
allegations
all.
through CPS. If you would please.
Let me. You have a counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
And your counterclaim I'm going to hear. Right now, you owe Mr. Brown $1,565 because what you did was malicious. And I don't understand something. You have one child together. I assume that you don't want to make her miserable. That when she was born, you said, oh, let's see what we can do over her lifetime to make her as unhappy as possible. Let's see what we can all do to make her as unhappy as possible. So I really don't understand two people who probably, in their own way, love their child, but hate each other more than they love their child, which to me is absolutely bizarre. So right now, because you did a malicious thing by having their car towed and not giving them a heads up that you had the car towed to a place that was going to cost them money, you owe them $1,565. Now I'm going to hear your claim that they made false charges to CPS about you.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, can I say something?
About what?
The car.
Before you say anything, did I say anything that was inaccurate? Did your father have the car towed? The answer is he's acknowledged that. He had the car towed and put it in a place where neither your mother or her boyfriend knew where it was, resulting in their having to pay fines to get the car out. Is there anything that I said was wrong?
That is partially incorrect because I had contacted my mother in the time and asked either...
Okay, that's that I'll hear.
Okay.
You contacted your mother.
I did contact my mother previously, not only on normal messages, but also on messenger messages, including how I wanted either the title or my money back and that they could have the car before that. Once the Facebook post was...
All I want you to show me is that you notified either your mother or Mr. Brown that the car was impounded when you notified them.
She also did ask my best friend where it was.
All I want, that's all I want. Don't tell me what you said to your best friend who's not here. All I want to do is see where you notified your mother that the car was impounded.
So there is this one about money in my account, which was about the car.
I don't want to see anything about the car. I only want to see where you notified your mother or Mr. Brown that the car was impounded.
Okay. I don't have the text about that, but I did notify her that it was impounded.
Well, I don't know that, and it seems to me you weren't talking to your mother on a regular basis because there was a lot of acrimony. If you have it, you have it. If you don't have it, you don't have it. So, Tricia, you could sit down. I'm telling you that it is inappropriate, the act of sharing a bed with a teenage female child as a father would give me cause to pause.
The Peppadew pepper on Panera's new Green Goddess Caprese Melt. It's a small detail, but when enough of those details are melted together, they become big. New toasted baguettes. Cater your next event with Panera.
Defendant Scott Mattis has accused his ex-wife, Heather Palin, of filing a false report with Child Protective Services.
Now, it was a malicious act to have the car impounded. There's no question in my mind that if they knew it was impounded, they would have gotten it out before. $1,565. Now, you want to show me what information you have with regard to filing a false CPS report?
Correct. I have the CPS reports and the police investigators report.
Okay. May I see it, please? This report, it was in September of 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's been several years of these reports and just disgusting allegations.
So you filed or you made allegations to Child Protective Services?
CPS actually contacted me, Your Honor, regarding several calls that they had received for the welfare of my daughter, Tricia.
In what year?
I was contacted, I believe it was 2019, and again in 2020.
They contacted you?
Correct.
For what?
To do an interview because of a claim that was made regarding Tricia's safety.
That were made by an anonymous source?
I don't know who made them, Your Honor. In Minnesota, you can't make multiple reports by one person. I cannot call day after day to make reports.
I'm just asking you, did you at some point claim that you had reason to believe that your daughter was being in some way physically abused by her father? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes, to a point.
Yeah, okay. And part of that involved a sexual abuse.
That one was not claimed by me. I did state to CPS that he does have her sleep in his bed with him.
Well, I have to tell you something.
Which is a little weird.
I have to tell you something. That doesn't seem a little weird. It seems a lot weird that your daughter acknowledged, sir.
Your Honor?
Your daughter. What I'm telling you is, it is inappropriate for a man to sleep in the same bed as his 15-year-old daughter.
Your Honor,
that's
we went
my
to a
view.
concert.
And if that's true, there may be a reasonable explanation for it. She said she was scared, whatever, but when interviewed, that's what it says in here. But I'm telling you, as a mother and a grandmother, in my view, and I'm not a professional psychiatrist or psychologist, but it is inappropriate for a teenager to sleep in the same bed with her father. Period. Maybe some countries it's appropriate, but
Your Honor, we went to a concert.
What?
And shared a hotel room at a concert.
No, that's not what your daughter said. No. That's not what your daughter said, sir.
May I finish?
Yes.
When she was going through all the stuff with the divorce and everything, she came into my room. I was asleep. She laid next to me. I'm asleep.
Listen to me. I'm not suggesting
Your Honor,
that
there's
anything
nothing
inappropriate.
inappropriate.
Sir,
Absolutely right.
understand this. I'm not suggesting that any inappropriate actions happen between you and your daughter. I'm telling you that it is inappropriate, the act of sharing a bed with a teenage female child as a father would give me cause to pause. I would say, you know what? That's not a good idea. It's especially, sweetheart, it's especially not a good idea when parents seem to be feuding. It's grist for the mill. You may want to go and, if she's scared, say, sweetheart, I'll go and sit in a chair in your room.
Many times.
In your room.
Many times.
But please, this is inappropriate. Do you understand? It's inappropriate.
Did you read the detective's statements in there?
No, I'm not interested in the detective statements. sir.
Obviously.
If what your daughter says is true as a result of the investigation, then there was reason for somebody to suggest to CPS to do an investigation. So, listen, bottom line, I can't tell the two of you to stop feuding. I can't. You either hate each other more than you love your daughter. That's the answer. And this court can't fix that. All I can do is fix $1,565, which is what you owe them for impound fees. This case is over. Thank you.
Yeah.
This court is adjourned.
I think the judge is wrong.
I am thankful for the judge.
She didn't read all the evidence. Multiple pages weren't read.
He's very good at manipulating others
Multiple accusations.
and being the person that, oh, pity me, feel sorry for me.
False allegations to the CPS.
My ex-husband decided that he would show me.
No, he's trying to get my daughter her money back or the title to her car.
He actually had the car as of August 24th. Then he brought her to the house and moved her out on September 4th. And that's when it just started going downhill.
She has a lot of hatred
I believe he's very angry that I divorced him
that she falls off a bridge.
and he lost the control over me that he had while we were married.
You know, Sarah, I've been doing these family cases for probably 40 plus years. And it always makes me sad that the mother, the father, even the new boyfriend, there is a window in life when you feel relatively healthy, nothing hurts you, you don't have a bad back, you don't have to worry about indigestion, you can walk around without a walker, you look pretty reasonable, and that you will take years away from that good time to create negativity around not only yourself, but the people that you love.
I think that's great advice.
I always said to people, both men and women, that, you know, it's one journey. You can take that journey and put as much positive energy into it.
Yeah, I just felt bad for the daughter. I mean, I know she's grown now, 19, but still 19, it still hurts your feelings to hear and see that your parents hate each other more than they care and love about you.
Well, maybe that statement
will make a difference. You never
will
know.
make a difference, because I'm sure it's not true.
Yeah.
I have a feeling.
But when it's said to you in a court in front of your child, hopefully they take some action on it then.
Well, hopefully they'll say, boing, you know. I mean, she has a new boyfriend, and he's got his daughter who's living with him. They should be happy.
Yeah.
And they're divorced.
Close the book and move on.
Close the book.
Yeah.
Her mother and her boyfriend should get a puppy together. Well, they should
Not until
they get married. Not until they. But do something. This is a grown young woman.
Have a healthy
Should
adult relationship with your adult
grown
child.
Right. Yeah. Not over a car. But you know, teenagers do crazy things for a car. I think that some teenagers would live with Satan if they bought.
Carrie Cargill is suing Joseph Simonet for car damage after Joseph's 15-year-old son hit Carrie's vehicle.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge.
Good morning.
Case 2138, Cargill versus Simonet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Cargill, you and the defendant's son had an accident while you were driving your car, and Mr. Simonet's son was driving his electric scooter.
It was like a skateboard, a one-wheel skateboard.
Tell me your name.
Jacob Simonet.
Describe this vehicle that you were riding on.
It's got 2 spaces for your feet. Has one on the back, one on the front.
Now try to look at me. I'm trying to see you.
Oh,
trying
There's
to
one in the
go
back,
like this.
one in the front, and then there's a big wheel in the center. And you put your feet on either side, and then it balances, and you ride it kind of like a skateboard.
Oh, I actually
had a
have
feeling you
picture
might
of
need it.
myself riding on one of those for about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
We bought it for one of my grandchildren years ago, but it's motorized.
Yes.
It has a motor.
It's electric.
And how fast does it go?
Tops out at about 17 miles an hour.
17.
Yes.
That's pretty fast. Are you required to drive that on the street where pedestrians walk or where cars ride?
On the sidewalk with the pedestrians.
Sidewalk.
Yes.
Do you drive it on the sidewalk?
Yes, I do.
Do you ever drive it in the street?
I do not.
Now you're going to tell me what happened on the date of this incident, which was August 17th.
This year, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I was going south after work, and I was going to, crossing through the intersection. I had the green light.
Is there a chart?
Yes. Yes.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah, I was crossing the intersection.
You're the blue car.
I'm the blue car. And I had the green, it was going, and Jacob had cut through on the red into the green and slammed into the side of my car. He had cut through the intersection.
So he was in the street where the cars travel?
Yes.
Not on the sidewalk?
Right. He was not in the walkway.
Okay. Jacob, I want you to walk up to that sign and show me where you were when you and the plaintiff collided.
I was about right here.
You were in a crosswalk?
Yeah, I was in the crosswalk coming through and about
Okay,
right.
is that what, Jacob, is that what the police report is going to indicate? That you were in the crosswalk?
I don't know.
Well, I assume that there is a police report. Is that correct? Police report's going to tell me where the debris was, I assume. The debris is either going to be in a crosswalk or it's going to be in the street. Where do you think it's going to be?
Some of it was in the street.
Show me the street that you're talking about.
About like right
No,
here.
put your finger on it. Don't go around where it's
About right here.
right there. That would be in the middle, right? That would be in the middle of the street where the cars travel, not in the crosswalk.
Yeah.
Yes. It's easy.
Sure.
How old is he?
15.
15. I've had a whole bunch of those who are 15. You know when they're telling a fib?
How?
When their mouths are moving.
He's a pretty good kid.
All of my kids are pretty good kids. But you can always
Figure
tell.
it out, huh?
Yeah, you can usually tell. Is this your first, only?
Both, first and only.
First and only. Oh, well, she probably had some experience with that anyway.
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay, and this happened at what time during the day?
I believe it was about 4, a little after 4, 4:30.
So it was light out?
Yes.
You collided with her car on the driver's side?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, on the door of the driver's side?
The fender.
Fender?
Yes.
Side fender?
Yes, side fender.
Okay, not the front of the car.
The front fender of the car.
Front fender of the car on the side. I'm talking about it was the side or the front?
The side.
Side. So you collided with her.
Yes.
Because cars don't move sideways.
Yes.
He could have been quite seriously injured.
Yes, he could. He hit the side of the car and he flew up onto the hood and then kind of rolled across the hood, hit my windshield, and then fell onto the ground. And when I stopped, he jumped up, appeared at my window, and apologized, and then asked me if I was okay.
What did he say?
Just said he was sorry. And then he asked me if I was okay. And then I asked him if he was okay. And then he asked me if I was okay. And it went back.
So far, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And which I was very impressed by, that he was more worried about me than anything else. I moved my car out of the road, onto the side of the road. There was an EMT that was across the street from us, and he came over and assessed him if there was any more damage. He got some road rash and things like that, but he was not seriously hurt, at least that we noticed at the time.
Do you have the police report?
I do.
I'd like to see it, please, Kevin. Thank you.
You're welcome.
One witness said that he was right next to you and that you went past him and that the light was red. His light was red, which is why he was stopped. That's what I'm reading. He did say that his light was red when the kid initially passed in front of him. Did you get a copy of this police report?
I've seen it, yes.
Explain to me, would you put on this again and leave that one on because that's the version that I believe. Would you walk over there and explain to me what cut the corner was, what you were doing, talks about cutting the corners. So I want you to understand, I believe that, based upon what I'm reading here, I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
So now I want you to show me how you cut the corner.
So I was coming to this one, and I went through, and instead of going here and just going through the sidewalk, I just went like around here and through this crosswalk.
What's cut the corner?
Cut the corner here, right there.
You mean just that little space is what you're talking about? You cut the corner?
Yeah, I went from about...
I want you to understand, I believe that you were in the street. I believe you were in the street, not in a crosswalk. So let's run through that again. Would you please show me what cut the corner was?
Went through here, I came here, and I cut here. So right there, I cut the corner.
He is a nice boy, Mr. Simonette.
Thank you.
You know what my father told me when he gave me my first car? I think I was 17. It was like a tank. He said, because if you get in an accident, I want you to be surrounded by 4,000 pounds of steel.
And later today.
Your claim is that you won a whole bunch of money in some gambling thing. I just want you to tell me how much you won.
Before taxes or after?
Both.
Carrie Cargill claims Joseph Simonette owes for damage after his 15-year-old son hit Carrie's car while riding an electric skateboard.
Okay, the police determined that based upon the eyewitness testimony that the pedestrian, Jacob, is at fault and believed to have crossed the intersection before having the right-of-way. The vehicle had the green light. In any event, do you have photographs of your car? This happened in August, and you were called to the scene by your son, is that right?
Correct.
And you got there, you know that he was a little banged up, but thankfully...
He was in an ambulance when I arrived, but shortly after, yes, he did walk out of the ambulance and suffered some injuries, which I have pictures of if you'd like to see them.
I'm sure he was banged up. He had bruises from falling off the...
From being launched from the vehicle after the collision, correct.
Okay. You know, he was really lucky that she wasn't going faster.
Correct. Could have been much worse. We were
Could have been much
thankful for his health and the outcome of the incident.
You're right. Okay, can I see an estimate to fix your car, please? Thank you.
You're welcome.
What kind of a car do you have?
A 2015 Equinox Chevy.
You had full coverage on the car, is that right?
Yes.
But with a $1,000 deductible.
Yes.
So if you put this through to your insurance, you have a $1,000 deductible.
Yes.
Right? Anything else you want to tell me, Jacob?
Nope.
Do you still ride one of those things?
It's broken. I didn't get a new one, no.
It was destroyed in the accident.
You know what my father told me when he gave me my first car? I think I was 17. He bought me the oldest, ugliest car, but it was like a tank. All my other friends were getting these nice, cute little cars, and this one was like an old person's tank Cadillac or something. You know, we're talking 50 years ago. And I said, why do I have to have this car? Everybody else has cute cars. He said, because if you get in an accident, I want you to be surrounded by 4,000 pounds of steel. That's pretty much the lesson that I've sent out there. 4,000 pounds of steel. One and only, surrounded by lots of steel. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. Thank you, we're finished.
This court is adjourned.
Overall, I'm happy.
She had some fault due to hitting a pedestrian in a crosswalk.
It was surreal, like out of the movies.
Your heart stops, and all you can do is look for the car keys and panic and get there as fast as you can.
I am so glad that he was okay.
I remember just flying through the air, and then I was on the ground, and I got right up.
Be very careful.
Count your blessings and enjoy every moment that you have, because things could change in an instant.
I know these electric scooters and skateboards are very popular, but even before this case, I tried to look up any rules, laws, regulations. There are a few for electric motorbikes and things like that, but far fewer than I would expect for a machine that can go up to 17 miles an hour when you're 15.
I think that you're right. I think that since those things have become so popular, there really have to be enforced rules. And parents, and this is a very nice father and son, but I've seen kids weave in and out of cars. It always looked like an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah. And this one could have ended in a real tragedy.
He was lucky, and his father knew he was lucky.
Hello mọi người, chào mừng mọi người đã đến với kênh của mình nha.
Hôm nay thì chúng ta sẽ cùng nhau tô màu cho cái bức tranh về ông mặt trời nhé. Đầu tiên là mình sẽ tô màu cho ông mặt trời về hai chiếc mã hồng. Bây giờ thì mình sẽ tô màu cho những cái bông hoa xung quanh này nha. Rất là nhiều các loại hoa luôn. Mỗi loại hoa thì mình sẽ tô cho nó một cái màu riêng nhé. Mọi người ơi, mình đã hoàn thiện xong cho bức tranh rồi. Và đây chỉ là bức tranh của mình. Cảm ơn mọi người đã cùng mình theo dõi. Video này của mình đến đây là kết thúc nhé. Tạm biệt và hẹn gặp lại các bạn nha.